everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, place about games, friends, and getting better. Thank you for being here on this special, somber episode. My name is Ben Hansen, joined by Leo Vader.
Hello.
Oh, somber Leo, a new form has arrived, everybody. We're also joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
Hello. We're also joined by, we got a big crew. We have Alex Van Aken. Sadly, now former lead video producer over at Game Informer. Alex, take it away, sir.
I'm so somber I can barely function.
Yeah. We're joined by Charles Hart. Welcome back, Charles. It's not going to be this the entire episode, we promise, everybody. Also joined by Marcus Stewart. Welcome, Marcus.
Hey, I don't get a former moniker?
Yeah, former editor. What was your title at Game Informer?
Associate editor.
Associate editor. Okay, Leo.
Can you respect my unemployment, please?
I don't need to be wowed to that type of agreement. Thank you all for being here. Marcus, let's see, you were on The Deepest Dive for What Remains of Edith Finch. You were surely on this podcast as well, but it's been years, right?
Yeah, I don't remember the last one, but I've been on, I think, a couple times.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Okay, good. Well, welcome back, everybody. I wish everybody was back on for wonderful news and reasons. But in case you missed it, last Friday, GameStop decided to abruptly shut down Game Informer magazine after 33 years, laying off the entire crew. There's a lot of details we're going to be getting into on this episode, unpacking all this stuff. There's a ton to get into. Leo, real quick, some table setting before we dive into the deep end on Game Informer stuff. You ready?
Yeah.
Number one, I see you with your cat. You're trying to rub it in my face because I haven't played Cat Quest 3 yet. I know you're messaging Huber out there saying, can you believe Van Hansen hasn't had time to play Cat Quest 3? It's out and about and he's too proud to play it.
I don't even know this cat. I just bought it to rub it in.
Okay, well, you're rubbing it in indeed. So next week, we'll be talking about Cat Quest 3 and some other games we've been playing, including next week, we're going to talk about a very exciting game we've been playing, which is Fields of Mystria, which is the game that Sarah Podzorski has been working on the team for quite a while now. It's the farming sim game. Very cute, very lovely. It is out. And this
overwhelmingly positive on Steam already.
That is the thing. That is the thing that blows my damn mind and heart is Sarah's working so hard on that game, hoping for a great launch, and then it gets out on Steam to overwhelmingly positive reviews. So shout out to that entire team. And Sarah, I know Haley's been playing a ton and loving it, so we're going to be talking about that in the future. But you might have noticed that on Monday of this week, we kicked off what we're calling the celebration of Game Informer here at MinnMax. So we're rolling out a whole series of features and podcasts kind of celebrating the full run of the magazine here because GameStop seemed to have no interest in acknowledging it after an AI-generated tweet. But we'll get into all that stuff.
Which, Ben, real quick, I'm trying to avoid my sarcasm that you always accuse me of.
Please.
But genuinely, thank you so much for doing that. Like for kicking that off and like taking that direction. Because like I think a lot of us here felt a lot of whiplash about all this and I didn't really know what to do necessarily or like how to celebrate Game Informer. So when you were just like, I'm doing this, I'm going, I'm very grateful and I think it's really cool. And I'm glad to help you out in any way that I can.
Oh, thanks. That's very sweet.
That's what we talked about in the monthly meeting was like, normally we try to not overdo our Game Informer connection and annoy people and give this like these inside jokes or inside backstory that most people don't even get. But that was like, this is the time to go all out and lean fully into our history there and our connections.
So we have a couple of videos up already, including like an office tour, kind of reflecting on the old Game Informer office video and stuff. That's probably the best video that's out so far. But it's going to be continuing into the future. We have stuff on the horizon that's going to be fun, surprises along the way. Next week on the MinnMax Show podcast, we're going to have a roundtable of some old timers at Game Informer to kind of dive even more into the history. But for this episode, we want to talk about the end of Game Informer, the last couple of years at Game Informer, what this team went through, what their future looks like, hopefully landing jobs for them. And so in the description for this episode, we'll also have everybody on the staff that was there at the end of Game Informer. There's some contact info for them. So if you have some jobs you can toss their way, please don't hesitate to reach out for all this stuff. Before we get into all this stuff, I did want to give one more shout out before I let any of you Game Informer people talk. Leo, you might have heard that Earth Defense Force 6 is out.
How is this going to matter?
Here's the thing, real quick. We have codes to give away for Earth Defense Force 6. So here's how it works, everybody. If you want to play this game on Steam or on PlayStation, all you have to do is subscribe to the MinnMax Show podcast on your favorite podcast app, specifically the Apple Podcast one, because that's where you can leave a review. So subscribe to the MinnMax Show on Apple Podcasts, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and include some way to contact you. It can be a Twitter handle, it can be your Discord ID, but leave a review, subscribe, include some way to contact you. We're going to be randomly choosing 4 winners for PlayStation and Steam codes for Earth Defense Force 6. So thanks to that team for sending those out. We'll be choosing those winners on Monday the 12th, but thanks for supporting MinnMax and for subscribing on your favorite podcast app. It goes a long way. All right. Kyle, Charles, Marcus, Alex, thank y'all for being here. Kyle, I guess we'll start with you. You say whiplash. Even on Monday, you expressed that message just like, I haven't collected my thoughts yet.
Yeah.
How are you feeling recording on this Wednesday now after the Friday after Game Informer was shut down?
Well, it's interesting because the thing I've gone through this once before.
Right.
Right, a layoff.
Yeah,
this
in
one's a little
2019.
bit more extreme, but I was definitely more emotionally prepared this time around, if that makes sense. It's something that I was like in the past, it was not something I was worried about at all. Since I've started back at Game Informer, it was something I was worried about all the time, if I'm being frank.
Yeah.
So like when it happened, it was there's a little bit of a release valve of anxiety, honestly, of just like, well, all right, it finally happened. And I feel optimistic, honestly. Like I feel okay. Just because I just was like a more emotionally prepared this time around.
Optimistic is a really interesting tone.
Yes. I don't know.
What is, I mean,
it's like a weird thing. I mean, my wife and I counted it up. I've been through a lot of layoffs over the course of like the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And like, I am just more prepared. I just know what to do now.
Mm-hmm.
In a way that's really like honestly frustrating in terms of like thinking about United States economic state. But I have sort of ideas in place of what I can do and where I can go. And I mean, you were wonderful enough to text me immediately and be like, hey, I can help, you can do more work here at MinnMax. And that's, I really appreciate that, and that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's also, I mean, a lot of people are going through it right now. We're not the only ones. I mean, Ready at Dawn just announced closure like
so brutal.
An hour ago or something like that. And it's like, so it's both frustrating and saddening, but like we're all kind of going through it, Yeah,
it's weird. There's a lot of weird emotions and thoughts over the last couple of days, but I was thinking about like I can't imagine what you all are going through at the same time. It's like I'm still angry about those layoffs from 2019, that were the reason that MinnMax was formed. I still have like this fire in my belly, like, God damn it, GameStop. That sucked so bad to have that lightning strike out of the blue, and they were so stupid and so cruel about it. And so it's like I'm still trying to process that. And then on that note though, Kyle, of it's not your first rodeo of sadness with a big clown with a big sad face at this rodeo, but it's like you look at like the layoffs in 2019 and how brutal they were. And then you look at where everybody is that was laid off, and it's like a lot of people are in a much better spot. It's just like things are going to change, and it feels brutal. But over time, it seems like it's possible to find a home in this industry. Yeah. Like I'm trying to think of everybody that was laid off in 2019.
For Charles, Alex, and Marcus on this call, like I know that is a hard thing to recognize. Like I totally get that, but like it is. You guys will be fine, but it's it's just going to take some legwork.
Yeah.
I personally also, similar to Kyle, and where he's like, yeah, I feel like I'm prepared for this. I started out as an intern at Fanbyte, and then the day before my last day at Fanbyte, they laid off almost everyone there. So this is the second time in a game journalism specific job it's happened. So I'm just like, oh yeah, this is just what happens when you're done with a job. You and all your closest friends get laid off. But it's nice because like, if I just got laid off by myself, people would be like, man, that
would suck.
Yeah.
but everyone got laid off. And so there's a lot of people loud and mad about it. So it's a nice thing, at least, where I'm like, okay, there's some catharsis in strangers sharing my feelings. And then also like the first time it was like my internship was going to end. I didn't really have like a plan for immediately afterwards. And all of a sudden I had like 10 different tutorials on like how to apply for jobs and where the right sites to go were and like the method for doing all this. And it's just weird that it to me is like in my brain is like a core part of the experience. It was like the last lesson I learned at Fanbyte and the last lesson I got to use at Game Informer in a weird way.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's like, Kyle talking about like preparing for it. I mean, I feel like when I started at Game Informer in 2010, I had the feeling of like, I give it 3 years before this video game magazine is shut down. And the fact that it's kept going, it feels like, especially in the last couple of years, we can praise Matt Miller all day and we'll definitely get to it more so. But I feel like every conversation I had with Miller is just like, it feels like everybody at Game Informer has their head on straight about like, we're on borrowed time, make the most out of it, make some cool stuff, prepare for what's next. Let's be realistic. No one's looking at GameStop's future and Game Informer's future and being like, nothing but up, here we go. Like this feature is going to turn the entire ship around. Like it was just that sinking feeling. And that's, why for MinnMax as well, back in the day, it's like just getting away from that feeling of like, there's nothing you can do to turn this around. Like you are sinking on this ship of GameStop. And no matter how hard you scramble, you're effed.
The Dragon Age Veilguard,
yes,
right? Our recent cover was like the most successful cover, I don't know, like in years. I don't know, you guys were there in the post-19 period more than I was, but I mean, maybe Resident Evil 4 was like up there too in terms of like successul covers. But it's like it didn't matter.
Elden Ring.
Yeah. Like, but it's, it's just that kind of thing. It wasn't a factor.
It'll boost your confidence a little bit, but if there was a world, and I know I'm talking too much, so please forgive me. The floor is all yours, I promise, on this episode. But like, if there was a world
Alex
where,
and Marcus have to go.
Yeah. If there's a world where, the Dragon Age coverage, every article you posted got 10 million views, every YouTube video got 20 million views, I don't think it's moving one needle 1 inch for GameStop. And that's just such a brutal spot to be in year after year.
I mean, I am with you that every day felt like a day that was not guaranteed to us. And I think there were times where that was like empowering of we can do whatever goofy fun thing we want because who knows what will happen.
Yeah.
We had conversations while I was there 2017 to 2020 so often about like any day now for, if not Game Informer getting shut down, GameStop going out of business.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. It was definitely a loomingness over the whole thing that made me kind of ready for it to end. And then when it did actually end so suddenly, it like took a few days to sink in and it start like really mourning what has ended.
Yeah. Yeah. Marcus, what's your roller coaster here?
I feel like I'm still processing it, and granted it's only been a few days, but I'm kind of lined up with Kyle of like on a purely personal note, I'm fine. Like I'm optimistic, and like with each day, and I think today especially, it's felt that like that sense of freedom where it's like, oh, okay, I can do what I want now. What does that look like?
Right.
And I think it's something that comes on the other side of, and this is something that unfortunately a lot of people can't say, of being able to say I did my dream job. Like most people don't even get to that of like, I did exactly what I set out to do. I did it for 4 years. I did everything I wanted to do there and more.
Wow.
And now I'm on the other side of that and I get to say, well, all right, now what? And that's like actually a pretty nice feeling. I'm more upset that Game Informer is gone more so than me being unemployed. Because at the end of the day, being unemployed is temporary. Like in about a month to by this time next year, that's like a bump in the road. It's like, oh, you're going to have a job. Odds are I'll almost certainly be doing better. So, but like the idea that I can't go to the website or, see new writers come in and make great work as someone that started as a fan of Game Informer for years before getting to work there. That's the part that saddens me. And then each day, or even like every couple hours, as I'm reminded of another thing that is gone, because you're like, oh, the site's gone. And then I saw Jesse Vitelli point out like, oh, the release calendar's gone. Everybody loved that release calendar. And I was like, oh, that's right. That's a part of it too. And that was a thing that I was one of the main custodians over, and I actually had to stop myself the other night from updating it when Avowed got delayed. So that was a weird, like, I gotta get this out of my system now.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I mean, just for a little like behind the scenes stuff, Marcus, it's been wild where I feel like there were a couple jobs that popped up that I sent your way through texts or messages online to be like, Marcus, you should think about getting outside of Game Informer. Like, it's going to go down. And I was always amazed by your attitude.
Did apply to
oh, okay.
Couple.
All right, there you go. But for a while there, your response was like, I'm good. I know it's going down, but like, I want to be here. It's all good. I was like, okay, it's a bold take, but sure.
Yeah, it was funny because one of them, we won't have to get into what it was, but you sent it, I think, the day before Blake got laid off. So it was like weirdly prophetic.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Of like, oh man, okay, well, this is another sort of warning sign. But honestly, like I said, we all had that sort of Damocles over our head of like, none of us were kidding ourselves necessarily about the long-term health of GameStop or Game Informer. I think what surprises me more is that I always pictured us going down because GameStop went down and we just got dragged with them. I didn't think they would actually cut us first because that seemed absurd. But
yeah, it's pretty much what's happening, just in slow motion, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the thing that surprises me more. But I think because, like as Leo mentioned, when you kind of have in the back of your mind that this could end any day, it kind of emboldens you. And I always had that mentality of like, ride it till the wheels fall off. Because again, going to that confidence of like, when this crashes and burns, we'll be fine. And we can say that we've put out our best work. And honestly, at least I'm glad that we relaunched the magazine subscription, like the print version before it went down. It's like one last hurrah. Like, okay, we were getting magazines in people's hands. It can be easy to look at that and be frustrated and say like, well, we did all that and that still didn't work. But I'm trying to, I guess, look at it from a more positive angle. Like, we sent out a few amazing magazines as like, I can't, it almost feels like poetic of like, that's our last big push that we did, was getting more magazines into people's hands before we said bye for good.
And that seems
you should be super proud of that.
It was a thing of, we would post, like, Kyle was like manning the TikTok account. And a lot of the times when a video would get some traction, people would be like, Game Informer's still around? Like, we existed in this weird spot where like some people had forgotten. And I feel like the magazine subscription was a way that we like re-entered the public consciousness in a sense, where like I hadn't seen so many people talking about it and excited about the magazine and our website by extension. So it was nice, at least, that we had a moment at the end where it's like kind of proving between the subscriptions and Veilguard, kind of affirming that it's like, people like what we do. People like Game Informer as a concept. Like, there's always that one person that's on Twitter that's like, well, supply and demand, and no one cares about physical magazines
Hear him
anymore.
out.
Well,
You should have backed up your work before it was deleted forever.
exactly.
Economics, bro.
But it's like, yeah, no, people care. People liked it. I feel better.
It's a sign.
It was like an unintended last hurrah.
Yeah.
We like that. That feels better to kind of almost go out in like a blaze of glory than like that. Like, if we had gone out when that subscription was still broken, it would feel like we kind of limped to the end.
Yep.
So it was like, hey, let's remind you who we are and how great Game Informer is one more time before it goes away.
I would argue it's a failure of GameStop's end, the fact that you feel like it's a last hurrah celebration. Like, at least the video game magazine was able to get video game magazines in people's hands at the end.
At least like the primary product that we created.
Yeah. It was like, well, McDonald's went down, but we served some burgers in the last couple of months. It's like, what the hell? I mean, I know it was just constant GameStop frustrations of not being able to get that clean
I'm trying to
subscription.
romanticize it from my heart.
I know.
And it was a years-long fight.
And honestly, at the end of the day, that is not our problem. And I'm trying to keep that in mind. I always try to, one of my main mantras for getting through anything is to control the controllable. And it's like, no matter what, going back to saying like, no matter how good we did, it wasn't going to affect anything. And that is definitely depressing on one end. But at the same time, it's like, well, in that case, then there's, I don't know, for me, there's like a fun challenge of like, well, what if we just kept making good stuff? And even if maybe it'll move the needle a little bit. But then, even then, why am I stressing so much then? If it's not my business at the end of the day. Like, literally, it's not my business. I don't make the decisions there. I I will drive myself crazy trying to apply logic to an illogical situation.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, if the people that are in control can't see that or, take advantage of that, that hurts. In the long run, that hurts them more than me. It's like, hey, we gave you this thing on a silver platter. What you do with it, I can tell you, but what you decide is on you. And if you go one way when I wanted you to go another, well, sorry. Okay. Well, all right. Maybe that's just me. That has helped me sort of reconcile with all of it. Yeah.
As they explained in 2019, our contact at GameStop, he said, yeah, Game Informer, you guys are an opera house. It's cool to have around, but you're not making money. So it's like, oh, okay, thanks. We're an opera house. Awesome analogy.
I guess there shouldn't be opera.
Yeah. What is you going to take down opera next GameStop? Come on. Alex Van Aken.
Hello.
Give me your roller coaster ride of emotions and thoughts.
I slept in late on Friday because I had a late night and I was like, I'm just going to sleep to the morning meeting. Luckily, I woke up before my alarms and I saw I had a nice, cool email with the entire staff and the VP of HR. And I was like, gonna go start backing things up.
Ooh,
yeah. And I had that whole experience. I actually told Kayla, my wife, I was like, I think I'm getting laid off. I've got this meeting. And she's like, there's no way they're laying all of you off. And I was like, okay.
I appreciate Kayla's optimism. Thank you, Kayla.
Yeah,
Right,
thank you,
right.
Kayla.
They're like, we don't care which of you is Spartacus. We're gonna kill all of you. Can all say it. It's not gonna matter.
Yeah. I thought we had more gas in the tank, honestly.
Yeah.
So I was really shocked. Especially just like how things were going recently. I think it was like, it felt like for us at least, things were like on an upward trajectory. At least that was my perspective on it.
Yeah.
And obviously can't get into specifics on numbers or anything like that, like for legal reasons, but like I saw things and I was like happy. I was like, cool. And so, yeah, to have it all just the rug ripped out from underneath of us so quickly. And
I mean, we were selling 2-year subscriptions. Like I was always, I kind of was like, we got 2 years at least.
And people were signing up for them. And things were going really well on that front, I thought, and if you, this is public knowledge for anybody who pays attention, like it's not proprietary knowledge. Like we were still selling ads, if you paid attention, if you're looking at the website, read the magazine, listen to the podcast, we were selling ads, we were selling subscriptions, and there was only 13 of us. And games journalism in general doesn't pay all that high. And so you can kind of make some guesstimates like it. Yeah. So it was kind of, my theory is, and this is pure speculation, just like looking at a retail company that owns an editorial outlet, you got to make cuts. Maybe you've made so many cuts up to this point that if you make another cut on your retail business, you cease to function. And so you cut the thing that is beloved, but if you cut it, you'll give yourself some runway to at least you have the people still to sell games,
Yeah. And
that's my theory. I don't know.
It's kind of that double-edged sword too of like, well, you're pushing the standalone subscription to Game Informer. That's great. But if people are signing up for 2 years, we kind of already got their money for 2 years. Maybe from GameStop's end, it's like, all right, now we can just kill this and the money's still ours. We don't have to pay them to actually produce these magazines for 2 years, which is a reminder. We did push the subscriptions to Game Informer a lot on this podcast and the Wall of Heroes and all that stuff on Bombcast. I did what I could. At the same time, get a refund, you fools. Run and get a refund. Don't forget. Don't let GameStop take this money.
You're not getting the thing you paid for.
Right.
You should get a refund.
Yes.
Yeah. Email returns@gameinformer.com and then also care@gamestop.com. I'd copy those 2 emails to request a refund.
Yeah. Alex, the layoff meeting, what did you learn?
Yeah.
What was the tone? How did it go?
It was very quiet.
Not just because our mics were muted.
Yeah, not just because our mics were muted.
You're on Zoom.
I mean, honestly, there's a couple people crying, which is typical for layoff meetings, and that really was sobering, and just like shocking. And I felt like we didn't have any of our questions answered, and so it was kind of just like it could have been an email.
What were the questions?
We asked about what was happening to the vault. We asked about if there were if like good faith attempts have been made to sell us off as an asset. Questions like that, you know.
And it was just
shout out Matt Miller for that, because they kept asking like, does anyone have any questions? And I was sitting there and I was like, I'm still like processing the fact that it happened. And Matt just kept coming up with like really good important questions that I don't know that we would have even had the opportunity to ask later.
I was too busy backing up my Outlook contacts.
Yeah. Smart.
We got 10 minutes in and then he asked about the vault. I was like, oh yeah, the vault. Like we should have asked about that at first. And I was just, in a weird way, it was like he had these questions ready to ask.
Oh yeah.
And I was glad
he probably had it like behind a glass case somewhere. It's like, well, it's time to break this out.
And it was just, was there even the GameStop representative or like the contact there, or was it just the HR person? They're like, I don't know.
It was the head of HR.
2 HR people.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
right.
2
One of
people.
them
It was all
Yeah.
I don't know or we can't share. That's all it was.
Which they wouldn't know.
No one that made the
Probably,
decision was
Yeah.
there, I think.
And was it communicated like, hey, we're putting out a statement on your behalf. Here you go. Because
That was not, because that was not told to us.
Okay. Because that came out.
said they would
Because
make
not
it
everybody
public.
knew.
Yeah.
Because Wesley was traveling back from Europe.
Yeah,
on
I
a
think he was
plane.
the only one that wasn't in it.
Okay.
And we did communicate that like we've got people traveling.
Out and about.
Yeah. And so then suddenly this statement went out and it was just an absolute zero. Like I was surprised, like, okay, let's read what the Game Informer closing statement was. And it was like a sentence and a half into that. Like, I've never read something that is so obvious that it was not written by Matt Miller. Like it's just, and everyone's running different tests on it. Like there's no way that wasn't written by an AI. It was just such a zero statement. It made me so mad. And then on top of that, then the entire site went down, and then it just links to that statement. And it's happened a couple times. I was like looking through, I was doing research for an interview that we have coming up, and I was trying to find an old interview with Jason Rubin, and I clicked a link and Google brought me right to that stupid AI generated image or just like message again. And it made me so mad. And I feel like it's going to be the next couple of years of our lives.
The very pretty image was like official Game Informer art, to be clear. Like, there was words on the image, and the other was stuff that Lele had, like the image that was on the image, if that makes sense.
Sure.
You know,
not the text
was Lele's work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the words I have no comment on.
Sure. The site going down, was there any heads up that was coming?
Real quick, there is an official statement out, by the way. Matt Miller wrote a wonderful letter, a final letter from the editor. It should be pretty easy to find. Please seek that out. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description. Yeah, Miller eventually just blasted that out.
That one he wrote, and
accounts.
then several of us gave it a pass to sort of give our stamps of approval on it.
Sure. Was there any heads up that the site was going down?
Nope.
So that was a question we didn't ask, and I was like, "Why would we
Why
ask?"
did you ask that, Charles? Why would
I remember thinking, well, because people were like, "You should back up your work," and I was like, "I have the text," but it didn't occur to me that I would need like to download screenshot PDFs of all the 100 or whatever articles I wrote while I was there. Like that was I don't know. I also thought it would be, if they were going to do it, they'd give it like a week or
I thought they would keep it up for the ad revenue.
Sure. Yeah.
Thousands of articles.
I think we all sort of thought that like it was not something that was at the forefront of my mind during the meeting, because there's so many other things racing through your mind. But I think in the back of my head I was like, oh, this will be up at least for like a day, or again like they would give some sort of heads up, say, let you know at this time,
right?
We're like, so yeah.
I feel like I haven't fully processed that. Like Game Informer is a magazine. It's like, okay, I can wrap my mind around that. I've been preparing that for a long time. The idea of that site going down, I still feel like I need to sit in a cold bathtub for a while and just think about like, there is so much that is gone. It's so brutal.
Again, every time I remember something that was on the site, that's when it like another break into like, oh,
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's right. That's gone too. Okay. And then I try not to think about it too much.
So I'm still trying to figure out this timeline. If you all can share anything, that's great. There are severance packages involved. So I understand all of you trying to be polite a little bit here. Leo, you're welcome to let her rip if you have thoughts on this, but the timeline as I saw it, and I generally haven't talked to any of you about this, but I thought everyone was locked out of all accounts at this point. Then a tweet went out from the Game Informer account that was a semblance of a real goodbye after the AI generated message. And then it felt like right after that, the Twitter account was deleted.
The most uncontroversial message, no shade thrown at all. Literally just, here's a goodbye from the people who made this magazine.
Yep.
we don't know.
No
idea.
No clue.
I think it was probably a ghost.
Okay. Alex, since you over on YouTube, I mean, was there a point where you have to hand over all the passwords for all the channels and everything? Did it already happen way before this?
The first channel I instantly lost access to.
Okay.
And
I mean, they did too. Yeah. They have access to some of those accounts because they would sometimes go into the DMs to do customer service and stuff like that. So we have
Twitter
like, software that all our social media accounts are connected to so that we can, share a post to Instagram and Twitter and Facebook all at once. Mm-hmm. And those are subscriptions that GameStop was paying for. So like they had access to those things and probably they still have access to those things. Yeah.
There's not the moment of give me the keys, Game Informer, and you have to hand it all over. They were already
there's
in
like
the system.
a audio transcription service like we use, and they like changed all the passwords on that.
Jesus Christ. Slack,
which
I assume.
think they're paying for it, so they're like, we just don't want to pay for it anymore. But it wasn't that the account was canceled. It was just like, oh, this password's wrong. I don't know if that's just how the
yesterday I lost access to all of my. I was jumping on another podcast to talk about this stuff. It's not out yet, but
Friends for a Second. Great podcast.
And I wanted to open up my Adobe Premiere to record, and my Adobe had expired. So like right before this podcast, I'm signing up for the whole Adobe suite, which is like $70.
Oh my God. Thanks.
I can't even think about this right now, but I have to use the tool. I need my tools.
Right.
So now I got that cool monthly payment.
Ugh, that sucks.
Congrats.
But
yeah. So I'm fascinated by all these lingering things. Okay. First of all, Marcus, you're going to Gamescom on behalf of Game Informer later this month.
Technically not anymore.
Right. So,
I mean, I'm going, but not for Game Informer.
Oh, you're still going?
Yeah. It was,
cool.
Honestly, that was pretty much my project today and sort of my project for the remainder of this month is to try to finish sort of my lingering work in progress stuff with Game Informer to see if it can just find a new home and another outlet. And my big thing, I'm supposed to be in Tokyo right now. I actually had a work trip.
Oh my God.
I'm a little bummed out about, mainly because I think today or yesterday in Japan, I was supposed to be at Tokyo Disney Sea on one of my free days, which I'm mad Ben, because I had a revenge fantasy where I was going to go to Tokyo Disney Sea, take a picture, text it to you and Mike Minotti, and rub it in your face because you guys went to Disney the other day for the Star Wars thing that I was originally supposed to go to, but then couldn't. So I was going to one-up you guys. Like, I'm at the cool Disney in Tokyo, so now they took that away from
Marcus,
me.
I think I speak on behalf of Mike Minotti when I say, who's laughing now, buddy?
And all I can screenshot, not Ben Hansen.
I can screenshot the ticket on my email and be like, I almost did it. Here you go. But
okay, so you're gonna go to Gamescom still because Gamescom was paying for it, which is bizarre. So now you're just gonna do freelance stuff.
They had already paid for it. Like I have flight confirmation, hotel confirmation, a Gamescom ticket, a ticket to Opening Night Live, which is the Jeff Keighley thing. Like all my appointments were booked. Like I was just waiting for it to happen, basically. So I reached out to my main contact at Gamescom that put this together and basically just said, hey, sure you've heard the news. I would like to maybe salvage this for freelance opportunities because it's already paid for. Can you just like literally just change my name on the badge from Game Informer to whatever your term you put for freelance, I guess.
Right.
And thankfully she was super cool about it. She's like, yeah, that's fine. Sorry about what happened. We'd love to have you out there. And then today I had to hunt down all of my missing contacts from Gamescom because of our Outlook lost access, but we can still get it. We can still enter the inbox and retrieve emails, just we're not getting any new emails. So I was kind of tracking back or trying to get the contacts that I hadn't saved and reached out to all of them today pretty much saying like, hey, can I still go to your appointment even though, as a freelance, basically? And all of them said yes. So
that's nice. And so
that's nice. So,
for more behind the scenes stuff, now MinnMax has a Gamescom correspondent. So Marcus is going to be going out to Gamescom and then coming on the MinnMax show, and we'll pay him to talk about what he played over there, so he can still podcast about that. So that, hey, weird thing out of the blue. But thanks Gamescom for making that still happen. Okay, this is fascinating to me. You all were in the middle of rolling out Dragon Age of Veilguard stuff. Were there still videos and stuff in the pipeline, features?
That had wrapped up. So it's funny because I guess I'll put this on the record because I saw a lot of places reporting that Dragon Age was our final issue, which is technically not true.
Right.
The casting of Frank Stone is our last issue because that did go out digitally, and I believe it's already out in the ether for print because the closure came at a weird time where like, oh yeah, those issues would be going.
We sent it to the
now.
printer. Yeah.
So as far as I know, you will get the Frank Stone issue.
Oh,
that
weird.
Seems to be the case. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Like I'm waiting for my copies to come in. So that is our actual last issue, and we were in the middle of the online rollout of that. Like I'd done most of at least the written stuff. I had one story that was supposed to go up this week while I was in Japan that was finished and saved on the back end. And I think that was my last one for written. I think Alex also had maybe a video or two.
Okay.
You have to tell me, Alex.
Yeah, I did.
That we haven't. Okay. But I mean, we got out a good chunk of the content, which is good. But I mean, the other sort of downside for this sudden closure is sort of like behavior and supermassive.
Yeah.
I think their rug pulled out from under them too. Of we thought we were going to get a month of coverage and we got nothing. Or not nothing, but you know what I mean. Like we're and also all the stuff we did put out is gone.
Yeah.
So, right.
My Eli Roth interview will never see the light of day, sadly.
Actually, that's in the issue. That's in the Frank Stone issue, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Closure.
I think it'll just never see the light of day because everyone will skip the Borderlands movie interviews, so it just still will never see the light of day technically.
Yeah, I was actually talking to someone from Behavior on LinkedIn, and they told me that they, I think they used Wayback Machine to grab all of the online features that went up.
There's still that option. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just fascinated by like when it stops dead, all the things on this train, because there's just so many balls in the air all the time at Game Informer. And like one of them is the next cover story trip already happened, was being written. And
it was done.
Okay.
It was done.
So that one, can you reveal what it was?
No, we'll hold off on that.
Because it'll go somewhere? That's the idea?
That's the hope.
Not Game Informer related. It'll just go up as like a freelance thing for a different outlet. Is that the idea?
That's what we hope. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Brian Shea wrote it. It's very cool. But yeah, it could still end up somewhere. So we don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
We don't want to reveal it, I guess you could say.
We can't
very,
say that.
very stylish.
I will say
bold.
The cover art is, I think that's the sad thing. I don't know if that'll ever see the light of day.
Oh, that's a great point.
It was
I don't know if I ever saw that.
It was a cool cover. I saw I don't think any of us, maybe Kyle, you have to let me know. I don't think any of us saw the finished version. I saw Brian showed me the work in progress version. So I saw the layout of it, like kind of like the pencil drawing. And I was like,
I bet that will turn
rad.
into like a marketing material for that game. Because
that'd be so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we could point to it and be like, yeah, that was
Technically,
on track to be a
that
cover.
should have been it. Yeah. It's so bizarre. Leo, thoughts? What are you thinking of when you hear all this stuff, man?
It's really aggravating hearing that y'all were mid-printing of an issue when the news came down. There's no perfect time to handle anything like this, but GameStop has screwed it up at every single stage of, the layoffs and every decision they've ever made in the history of their dog shit company. Mm-hmm. But it's like it's either evil or cowardice to just not ask anyone who knows anything when would be a time that would be less disruptive. Or I really don't see what the harm is in going, hey, your next issue is the last one.
Right.
And put something in there about how you're sorry that it's ending. Like what is hard about that?
Yep. I don't understand it either. It's just they're trying to go for the guillotine move of just let's rip the Band-Aid right off. But like it would have been so cool just to have the final issue of Game Informer, call it the final issue. It would have been awesome for devs to get in there. Like you could have this
EGM got to Nintendo Power got to do it,
with the throwback Mario 2 cover. That was so cool with the claymation. Like if they, I mean, I guess you did have the, Sonic, what was that not good co-op Sonic game?
Sonic Superstars.
Yeah, that was almost like that's almost like a throwback to the first issue of Game Informer. which
It's
had
actually it was
Sonic
the
on.
previous Sonic game. Actually, it was Frontiers that had that cool.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Oh yeah, that was Frontiers. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
By the way, I always would try to do that. I was pushing so hard for the Resident Evil 4 remake cover to just be the new Resident Evil 4 remake assets, but that classic Game Informer Resident Evil 4 reveal cover.
Right.
I was pushing so hard for that, and we really tried to make that happen, but Capcom didn't want to do it.
Capcom. That's fine. By the way, Kyle, for people watching the video version, you want to show off your shirt there just real quick? Just I feel like people are going to tease. Leo, you got a sweet GameStop shirt as well. Everyone, if you're watching, Funko Cross GameStop is the shirt.
Partners in fun.
Partners in fun.
Funko is complicit.
No, that's a Funko Fusion if I ever seen one.
No. Ryan Cohen's actually unlockable in Funko Fusion, so everyone look forward to that treated. Hopefully he's behind bars.
Kyle, you can tell
lockable.
people now that's just your game's top.
What do you say? What about a top?
That's Kyle's. That's his game's top.
It's my game's top. My
It's his
top that I'm
about
wearing.
games.
Oh,
his game's
okay.
top.
Hang on, Charles. So what you're saying is that shirt
I thought
that
he was a
Kyle's wearing,
Switch.
that shirt right there that's on Kyle's body, that's his game's top, you're saying?
Yeah, it's his game's top.
I see. It's his game's top. I got it.
Yeah.
And I'm a game's bottom. Moving on.
Keep this wit a rolling.
That was a reveal even for me, Alex. I didn't know we had that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
I
This
do
is
feel
actually why we lost our job.
They opened up the meeting and Alex said, "I'm a game's bottom." And HR was like, "Okay, cancel the stuff we have."
Yeah, we actually
Cancel
called
the-
you here
the
to give you all
company-wide-
raises, but now that we heard that,
y'all talked about like the small team, and that was still mind-boggling to think about the skeleton crew that was running that thing. You know, John Carson was let go, then Blake Hester was let go, Wesley was brought back on. It was a confusing path towards the end there. Jill left.
Shout out to Wesley, by the way. We're the double layoff team.
Congratulations.
Him and I
Yeah, the only ones, right?
two-time layoff.
Pretty
champion.
good.
I sent him the Predator gif of the people, clashing their hands together. You and me, Wes.
You got to hang your jerseys above the rafters.
But I mean, I don't
You
know.
know how that Predator image usually has like one thing and then the other? They're two different things usually, but you could just say GameStop laid me off and then another GameStop laid me off again or something. I don't know.
That's good.
But every time I look at like the staff and then the masthead, it's like, how is this possible? Like specifically the design department blows my damn mind. Like Lele is the lead graphic designer. She was there since I think like early 2011. We started at almost the same time. The fact that she was still going strong. And then there was Monica, who I never met, who was another graphic designer.
Monica's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
Monica's-
shout out to
Monica's
both of them. Incredible work.
yeah. And then Margaret as the production director, and like that crew, I don't know if Margaret was doing any design work. Was it really just Monica and Lele making a magazine almost every month here?
In terms of, like,
Margaret and then John, who has also
Yes.
worked with Margaret, they would come in and they would help when they could. But I mean, not to diminish anyone's work, but yeah, it was mostly Lele and Monica.
I don't know how the production staff used to be so it wasn't massive, but it was like 6
4 or
people.
5, right?
Yeah. And so to boil that down to now something, all right, a sliver of a sliver, keep doing the same magazine. I don't know how the hell they're able to do that not quite every month,
Less
because 10
sleep.
issues. Less sleep, is that the idea? I mean, production it felt like a stressful job back in our time, and I can't imagine what Lele and the team were going through in the last
Because
couple
we're
years,
also
but-
bringing everything late. They probably were so annoyed with us, but they were always so polite to us. It goes to the printer tomorrow. Here's the cover story.
yeah. If you
like,
saw
we
the
try
amount
our
of
best to accommodate and get things early, but you know how it is sometimes.
yeah. Any other heroes you want to shout out that went the distance at Game Informer here?
I mean, Matt Miller. We talked about. I feel like he doesn't get his flowers or as much because he's not as present on social media because he's a smart person. But I think going to your point about how lean we were, it would have been very easy to have the mentality of where you guys have to make up the work that a large team used to do with a smaller team.
Yeah.
And pretty much from the jump, like from the moment he took on the editor-in-chief role, he was very adamant about us taking care of ourselves and not killing ourselves. Like he's like, I'd rather we produce less than try to, maintain the same output as we would if, a few years ago. And I really can't stress enough how much he was like on our asses about do not kill yourself. Like, I'm someone that
he was like the Jay Jonah of like work-life balance.
I'm not even kidding. Like, I cannot tell you.
Send me pictures of you taking a vacation.
I'm someone that I am notoriously like I will overwork myself. Like, I will take on things that I probably shouldn't, and something I've always tried to work on, but I think it speaks to, and maybe we're all like that because we care about what we do. And like, you want to do so much. And I cannot tell you the number of DMs I have gotten from him where like I'll say in a stand-up meeting, like, yeah, I can do that. And with him knowing that I was like, you got a lot on your plate, and he'll like message me so many times and be like, are you sure? I don't know, man. Are you sure? Right. Like, just like I would have to convince him to be like, no, I got this. And there were times where he's talked me out of doing something, which is weird because that goes against like all of my hardwiring for dealing with bosses. You rarely get a boss that's like, no, actually you shouldn't work more than you should. So it was like a weird, almost like mind game to me of like, wait, you want me to not take on an assignment that I would do? Yeah. But like, I appreciate that so much because honestly, he's probably, and maybe for everyone else too, like he has protected us from ourselves a bit in that way of like just wanting to knee jerk, and because we care, again, having so much passion and care for this magazine, wanting to make it work despite the numbers game, and just trying to just push on, and him constantly having the reins to say, hey, slow down. It's okay. Like, we're good. We got to get it done, but please do not kill yourself. Please take a day off. Please go on vacation. And that is something that I think that is a big reason for why we did as well as we did with what we had, is knowing that we had that support system. Yeah,
he's the sweetest guy I've ever worked with, for sure. Oh, yeah. Way sweeter than Kyle and Leo. But like, just thinking about it too.
I would tell Marcus to take days off.
Honestly, I will give Kyle this because Kyle is as like, I feel like there was one time Kyle where I was like, if it wasn't through text, I feel like he would have been yelling at me because I don't remember which instant, but I just remember we had days off that we were owed because we worked on like a weekend for like a showcase. It might have been like Summer Games Fest or something. Yeah. And I'm really bad at taking those, by the way. I've always been, because again, I try to find the right spot of like, well, there's never like a good time to leave. It's always like, oh, when I don't have anything to do, I'll take it, because I don't like going on vacation where I have things that I know I have to do. And then those times never come, and Kyle would be like, Marcus, please take a day. Take Monday, please. Yeah. Just don't
take
forget.
My Monday, please.
Don't forget to take your days.
But it's so wild to think of like Miller's spot of holding back what I can only imagine is an avalanche of stupidity from GameStop and patiently explaining what Game Informer does over and over and over again to rotating executive idiots above him. Just be like, okay, here's why we need an office. Here's why we shouldn't fire these people, just over and over again. And then on the other side, trying to tell the team, like, please take care of yourselves, and like keeping that balance rolling. That seems like such a brutal spot. So yeah, huge shout out to him. And he's so sweet. He called me on Friday. I was like out to dinner, and he called me. He's like on the roughest day probably of his professional career, the fact that he would like take time to call me just to talk for like 45 minutes about everything. Obviously he has a lot of thoughts as well, but he's like, I can't really say as much as the internet would want me to. So I'm gonna let other folks talk. Was kind of his angle.
But yeah, everybody I've talked to who worked there the last few years under him has nothing but kind things to say. And it really seems like he was the right steward for a tough period. Yeah. And it was nice that he accidentally was on the final episode of the Game Informer show, Alex, which you were the host of. That was a weird thing how that all worked out.
If I had known that was going to be the final episode, I would have done a lot better job.
Yeah.
I was listening to that episode on like Saturday, and I think there was, I recorded it, Alex, as you're like, I'll be here next week. He'll be here next week. And you're like, this is what we got planned for next week. And I was like, oh boy, okay.
How are y'all feeling about the the squirrel with a gun new gameplay today being the last video.
I looked up that video, and now it has like a ton of comments, and most of them are post layoff where people are like, I can't believe this is the last Game Informer video. Is me and Charles just being baffled by a squirrel with a gun.
Nobody had any idea the gun was aimed at Game Informer. Leo, do you want to try and guess the final tally for the top 10 highest viewed videos on Game Informer's YouTube channel? Ooh. Well, actually, I guess Leo and Alex, maybe we're out of the running. Kyle, do you want to take a stab at it? Maybe we know this too well.
Okay. I looked at it recently and I remember being surprised. It was like it's a recent video. I think Resident Evil 4 remake gameplay is really high.
It is not as high as you think. It's around number 10. Let me actually number these. That would probably help my trivia here.
Can I make a guess?
Yes, you can.
It is, I was like,
I don't. It's been a while since I looked.
Yes.
Because I would get depressed because I would look to see if any of mine were in there and they weren't.
Okay. Yeah. So what's your guess for number one?
Oh, I got to do them in order.
I think I know.
Number one is the.
You said it's a recent one. Number one.
No, it is not.
Okay.
Not that.
I'm gonna say it's Leo's video on Rainbow Six.
It is Leo's number. His big Rainbow Six thing here. So that is
sure the ad revenue was always on that one.
Yep.
Is Days Gone gameplay up there too?
Number 3 was the first hour of Days Gone gameplay, which is cool. Speaking of history, because that was the early version of the first hour of Days Gone's opening, and they reworked it after we recorded all that. But that was just bizarre that Sony let us record that. It felt like this is very un-Sony, but no one's stopping me, so let's just keep rolling with this.
Does that version have the famous line in it?
About riding the motorcycles as much as I forget if that's in the first hour. I don't think so. I feel like
it's later in a flashback to the wedding, I believe.
Okay, yeah, we all remember all these beats.
And where is Leo's Weird Al style parody of the Pokemon rap about Super Mario Odyssey?
That's number 2. That's number 2, I think. No, I didn't think quite make that. But I do want to give
3,000, I don't think.
Oh, amazing. I love that video.
Yeah. I do want to give props for Leo for dominating the grand total. And it was highly competitive in that office. No, but it's just awesome that I love that the number 1 video is a original video about Leo just going back and looking at that original Rainbow Six Siege trailer. And it's funny, it's good. And for that one to be the number 1 instead of just here's a coverage trailer, technically it has Spider-Man gameplay in at the end. That's so cool.
Yeah. That's almost like my biggest impact on the legacy of Game Informer is just having that video in that position. Weirdly,
that's weird.
That's strange to think about, but I'm really proud, and I've been proud. But while also hoping that something tops it, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure, man.
Yeah,
there's time now. And I almost took that video down a couple times. DMCA.
Yeah. Oh, funny. Alex,
DMCA from the M16 in the game is the Army owns it.
Look at this.
I did go put a link to my new channel when I quit Game Informer in the description of it.
Hell yeah.
Wait, the Army can copyright guns?
No, I was kidding.
Okay.
Alex, though, your video is kicking butt in the number 2 spot because you made the Plants vs. Zombie 2 trailer, right?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
I think some of my Elden Ring videos might be in the top 10.
Yes.
Those did really well.
Definitely
those were Alex Van Aken original.
There we go. Love it. Yeah. I love that 6 stunts in Spider-Man is, I think, number 8 or 9 for the most viewed. And that thumbnail is so good because you make it look like Spider-Man is dunking a basketball. I've never seen a better example of just a thumbnail making that big of a difference. If it was just a picture of Spider-Man, you'd probably have 1/10 the views, but that is so compelling. Wait, you can dunk a basketball as Spider-Man? And it's not nonsense. You lined it up in photo mode to make it look like he was dunking a basketball. It's perfect.
Yeah, I love that video. I think that's one that I showed to my daughter at some point kind of recently.
Oh, really?
Because she's getting more into YouTube and stuff. And I got that was pretty funny, Dad. I got one of those. I was like, all right, that's a win.
Nice work, Dad.
Yeah. God of War Rapid Fire.
I didn't tell her it's basically all you, Leo, and Reeves and Cyril. I'm just
please.
I was just present.
Stolen Valor.
Easy.
Where's your show?
God of War Rapid Fire made its number 5. That was the highest performing Rapid Fire interview. That was with Corey Barlog and Joe Juba. It's nice to see one of those up there. It's nice that series did well, but not top 10 level well. But stay tuned on that front. But the YouTube channel, a lot of people are concerned. I understand it. It's a weird thing where, in theory, GameStop only makes right calls, and they're going to have trickling revenue from that for hopefully many decades to come. And hopefully it stays online.
Yeah, they don't have to pay for that one to stay online with where the website.
Right.
They do have to pay for it to stay online. So I'm less worried about that one, but still worried.
I am extremely worried, but it's a classic thing of there's logic for why they should keep it up, but that's not gonna.
Is there a button on YouTube that is delete this channel and all the videos?
Probably.
Or would you have to go through one by one?
There is a nuclear button.
Yeah,
There is a nuclear
You got to turn
button.
2 keys to do it.
Yeah, it's tough. Alex, you said
It's the play button they sent us.
Alex, you said you would have done a better job on the last episode of the Game Informer show if you would have known that it was the last episode of the Game Informer show. Would you like to have a stab at the last episode of the Game Informer show on the MinnMax show here?
I would love to.
Okay, here we go. Officially, this is the final episode of the Game Informer show. Here we go. Oh, hang on. It's the wrong intro. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Final episode. No, sorry. This is the wrong. This is the wrong intro. That's not the right one at all. Okay, here we go. Final episode.
Okay. Gotta wait for the drop. We gotta wait a little more.
Don't rush it.
One more bar. One more measure. And now it's gonna start to fade after this one. Here we go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Game Informer show. I'm sad. Glad you're here.
Yeah. That was my favorite episode.
I'm sad we were here. Yeah.
Come on, what would you have said, Alex? What would you have said?
I mean, I think I would have tried not to be as tired as I was that day. We were just like, I mean, honestly, like I've been burnt out.
Yeah, I think it shows because like the name graphics were wrong in the video version. Which Someone in the comments, because I was checking and I was like, really? And then I saw it and then I screenshotted it and sent it to Alex because my name was under him. And I was like, yeah, that's a heavy mantle to wear.
It was that's the only time comment in the meeting. That's what did it.
I think I was Matt Miller.
You know what's so sad? That's the only time I've ever made that mistake. That's the only time I've ever done that.
I think it still had me, Alex, and Kyle. So I think actually I was Kyle and then Matt was Alex.
Yeah, man.
Only
time that's ever happened, and it's the last one.
Hey,
it's a historic episode for more than one reason.
That's it. Reminder, in the description, there's the list of everybody who is at the end of Game Informer there with their title and somewhere to contact them if you feel like reaching out. But we have a bunch of community questions if you all want to get to those for any more Game Informer talk, if everybody in the community can handle this thing. Before we do that, Leo and Kyle, do you know how this MinnMax thing operates?
Corporate oversight?
Corporate oversight. Thank God we have those sweet corporate overlords keeping us wrong. No, obviously you don't want to make it too much about us. You know, MinnMax was created as a life draft from Game Informer to get away from GameStop back in 2019. And huge thank you to everyone in the community for building us this fortress. Kyle, they turned our microphones into megaphones. And it only exists because people went out of their way to build up this independent life raft. So we can't thank y'all enough. You know, I do want to stress out there, like we're going to help these Game Informer folks. We're going to create some projects for them to help out at MinnMax. Creating jobs. At the same time, we're not doubling the size of MinnMax. I don't want people watching or listening to this thinking that, you know, MinnMax is going to start creating Game Informer 2.0 as a magazine. We're bringing a bunch of people on full time or anything like that. But we're going to collaborate and help them out in this transition time, just so everybody knows, you know, when they're jumping in on Patreon, we greatly appreciate it, but just want you to know where that support is directly going here. But there's going to be some fun surprises coming up for sure in the future here. And I message every new supporter on Patreon, so thanks to everybody who jumps in. I'm looking forward to talking to y'all, and thanks for keeping this independent operation a-rolling here. But Leo, you know who else we should say thanks to?
Oh.
Leo, you should be excited about this one because huge thanks to, we have a new supporter here at MinnMax. I was very excited when this email came through of, hey, do you want to plug MeUndies on the podcast? I said, I've been waiting so long to plug MeUndies. This is a brand of wonderful underwear for men and women. So excited for this finally to come through. It really was a moment of looking at my underwear drawer, and not to get too graphic here, but believe it or not, I'm not a fashionable man. Underwear just tears everywhere.
Is there proof of that you're not a fashionable?
Yeah, look at the rest of your closet, man.
Yeah, so the underwear was in rough shape, and so when this partner came through, I was like, oh my god, I get to pick out underwear? This is so great. I'm not a man who loves fashion. Had such a good time going to their site, choosing underwear, and then I was very excited because I'm like, what's the stupidest underwear I could buy and surprise my wife with? And so I got some wonderful, comfortable underwear from MeUndies, and it's just covered in Ursula from Little Mermaid, like bright purple Ursula underwear. Delightful. Genuinely, I did not realize that having comfortable, good underwear really does make a difference in your life. It's like bed sheets, but except you wear them all day, every day. I wear them in the shower. I'm so excited about MeUndies. So you can check them out. They got style for everyone, 100 different colors and prints ranging from black to dinosaurs, as they put it. And also, speaking of Disney, they have a problem-free philosophy over there at MeUndies. If you're not happy with your first pair, it's on them. You can get a refund there. And they want you to know that summer is here, and you can be prepared for the highlights of summer with MeUndies. You get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/MinnMax. That's MeUndies.com/MinnMax for 20% off plus free shipping.
I wish GameStop had a no problems philosophy.
Wouldn't that be nice? MeUndies, comfort from the outside in, everybody. Check them out. They're wonderful. Also,
Ben, if I
Yes.
Can I make a recommendation to surprise your wife with your underwear? Is that you buy those tearaway pants that strippers use, and you just like really make an event out of it. Like you just pull them off and your pants shatter.
Yeah.
And
My current underwear are almost
your
tearaway pants because of all the holes in them.
Yeah.
So maybe I should get on the
handmade tearaways.
Poor unfortunate holes. Hey everybody! Also,
there's gonna be some severance near your package.
Whoa! They're gonna go the distance?
Hey everybody, also thank you to our dear friends at I'm8bit. They want everybody to know about Simpler Times. Boy, we could go for some of those right about now. And turns out Simpler Times are available for everybody to buy on Steam. There is a new game called Simpler Times that I'm8bit has published. It is an experimental interactive meditation that rewards patience and attention with poignant moments that can be replayed like a favorite song. I can't think of a game that we could all use more in our lives right now than I'm8bit's Simpler Times. You can check it out. You can check out the vinyl soundtrack as well. That's in their wonderful online store. You can get that vinyl soundtrack, or you can get the game on Steam. But help support I'm8bit because they support the MinnMax community in a huge way. Help support them. Go to I'm8bit's wonderful online store. You can use the promo code Super Soaker Sunday. Boy, we could all go for a Super Soaker Sunday right now in our MeUndies. Can you imagine the thrills? But use 10% off code Super Soaker Sunday at I'm8bit's wonderful online store and help support I'm8bit because they ship out a prize each and every week to the MinnMax community. We're so lucky to have them on board. This week, whoever has the best question submitted on Patreon, because if you're a Patreon supporter, you can submit a question. And this week, they win We Are OFK, the Nintendo Switch exclusive edition, thanks to I'm8bit. So
I do want to say real quick on the note of Simpler Times soundtrack, they did actually send me one of those vinyls as like a promotional thing, and it was a very good packing playlist. I had it on the record player when I was packing up the apartment to move to the house. Nice. So it is Charles approved soundtrack.
Nice. All right, ready for these questions?
Yeah.
JT writes in, says, as much as the circumstances for this get together sucks, you all are now alumni to one of the possibly the best, most prolific games journalism outlets to have existed. It's interesting. Apart from the work we were able to see, what's something you want to highlight from your tenure at Game Informer? Also, much love, GameStop sucks, and may this moment be a small blip in your successful lives and careers. Wow, thanks, JT.
So something people haven't seen?
Yeah, something you want to highlight that the public didn't get to see from your time at Game Informer.
Oh, like a feature that didn't come together, I guess?
Or just working behind the scenes, that type of thing.
Oh, okay.
I want to say this is kind of has been seen, but no one ever stopped me from doing it. is I've mentioned on the Game Informer show a number of times, but every day for lunch I would write a little lunch song, just a parody of some popular song with food or lunch themed lyrics. And I have a whole cache of those. But the one that no one ever got to see was the big 1 year anniversary. Is I did a full cover of Bohemian Rhapsody, but it was about sandwiches.
Hang on, do you have this file?
I do.
Can you share it right now with me?
If you want to save it.
It's
it
the
could be a
full
Patreon
song.
reward.
Yeah.
It's to be clear, yeah. We can't. It wouldn't. I mean, maybe it would be good. We would have to sit through all of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay. Can we close the episode with it?
Sure.
Yeah, no, we should, because we would talk about it, Charles, right? We'd be like, when we got to hold this one for a big moment, and we kept holding it, but like, let's do it, man.
Yep, that sounds
it's
great.
amazing. It needs to be heard.
That'll be the closer for this episode.
Make sure I have the right.
It's religious.
Yeah.
If this circumstance hasn't taught us enough, you never know. Life's too short.
Get it out there, everybody.
It's really the only
there.
thing keeping me going at this point is that one.
Yeah.
All right, I'll send it to you, Ben.
All right, thank you.
First words are: "Is this the real Sprite?"
Yep. All right. Has anybody else got something that's kind of under the radar?
I have two. These are two stupid ones, but I have two screenshots saved in a personal folder of articles or headlines that I had saved in the CMS that I then sent through like edits that were changed, but they were so funny that I didn't want to like just delete them. And I think within my first few months, this is when Joe Juba was still there and was like the main editor. But there was like a story I was writing for like a Sonic plushie. It was one of those like big pillows that is just like the character's head.
Right.
And my original headlines was like, oh, I just want to write something funny. Was this Sonic plush is so soft that it makes us want to. I was like, this Sonic plush is so soft that it makes us want to hug him so hard that he can't run away. Like something like really creepy. And I sent it to him like, this is fine, right? And he's like, you got something else? And it just looks so like just reading that and the image of just this Sonic plushie as the main editor just like made me chuckle. So I screenshot that and I still have it. And then there was one that former editor Jay Guizhou, who is awesome. I think it was during like a state of play when Sifu was first announced.
Yeah.
And his original, I think his headline was like Sifu, an exciting martial arts game announced. But like he chose an interesting photo where he's like exciting martial arts game. And it was the character Sifu just like face down, eyes closed, like knocked out. And it looked like he was napping. And it was just the disconnect there. Perfect. And it went out, like he socialed it. And I just remember seeing the comments on Twitter, people being like, are you sure he doesn't look exciting? He looks like he's having a nap. And I messaged him just saying like, maybe you should find like a more interesting header.
I love it.
But I have kept that. And every now and then I would message him on Slack to tease him with that. Like I would just drop that screenshot without context. And every time he would just like die laughing.
Yeah. It's always just the jokes that I remember in the office that like weren't recorded. But normally it was like Jeff Cork because I sat next to him and he was just so damn funny. And off-color joke coming up quick, everybody. So be warned. But
Leo left.
Yeah, you're talking about Sonic plushies. I remember we were sitting around and like the game over page, like the back page of the magazine, was Sonic the Hedgehog trivia, and Tim Turry was trying to write it, and so it's like classic office bullpen thing where Tim Turry's like, I'm having trouble coming up with a final piece of Game Informer trivia. Like Sonic trivia. What would Sonic trivia be? What should be the last one? And Jeff Cork just, because Tim's a big Sonic fan, Jeff Cork suggested the last piece of trivia was, which Sonic plushie?
Wow.
Oh my God.
There we go. Sonic plushies, everybody. Important to the legacy of Game Informer. On the first cover, Kyle.
On the, it's like, what?
I really loved the end of the year top 50 discussions, which there was some debate and some pushes and pulls for recording or not recording to make content out of, like so many things there and in the rest of our lives. But yeah, I wish we still had those, even the testy ones. It was like a really interesting thing to go in there and sit down for 3 hours debating about games, lunch break, 4 more hours debating about games for like a full week.
Yeah.
That was I really look forward to it every year.
that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do. We did a GI show where we did the mid-year Game of the Year awards because I wanted a way to sort of like record a microcosm of those discussions in a way that it gives readers some insight into what those look like, even if it was just me, Kyle, and Alex. But I echo that same sentiment of Leo of like, man, it'd be cool if we just recorded these one year and put them out.
It was a constant battle, and it was several people. God love them. They're just like, I don't want that pressure. Like I think it was always the divide at Game Informer during my era, especially of like, I just want to write a magazine. I don't want to have to worry about getting lit up in a YouTube section because of my opinions about this game as I'm tired in the office trying to argue for why I think Final Fantasy sucks. And it's like, yep. Okay, that's fair, but it's still, I have a twinge in my heart with you even talking about that, Leo. Like, God, that was so many hours of good games conversation just wasted. Oh, it killed me. But hey, I wasn't in charge. They should have.
I just wish I secretly recorded it only for myself.
Right.
To listen to it.
Yeah.
I have a document here I could read from that is really good. Unrun, unpublished Game and Farser headlines. So we were going to run.
Oh god!
In the most recent batch, I mean, it was right. We just didn't have the manpower.
This was 2 years ago, though, right?
Alex,
This is 2023.
I feel like before you do, there's one that I think you and I both and Blake Hester universally agree is the greatest misjoke opportunity. I'm excited for you to see it.
Which
Was it the Final Fantasy one?
No.
Okay.
I have the Final Fantasy one. I don't know if I can say that one.
This guy doesn't want to get lit up on YouTube.
Ben shares the other story.
Oh, that was cut out, Kyle. That's not making the final cut of this
maintain
episode.
the Final Fantasy one. There's nothing. I think that one was mine.
That was yours. Yeah,
It was yours.
We were really fighting for that one.
Okay, I'll read.
Get ready, backstage pass. You might be the only ones to hear these.
Yeah, right, timestamp. Okay, so this was 2023 for context. So mine that I was the most proud of that got denied, or this one was 2022, but I kept it on the list because it was I loved it so much.
Right.
But it was Bobby Kotick announced his next Dead by Daylight killer. I was really happy with that one.
Good.
That would have been good.
Would have been good. We're really taking the SOB down.
Yeah. Microsoft announced his plan to acquire FTC. That was
good. That's good. That's
good. Oh, here's Marcus's, the Final Fantasy one. Final Fantasy 16 to get black character as post-launch DLC.
Okay.
Oh, that's not the one I was thinking of.
That was the one I was thinking of.
I forgot about that.
No, and then
I was thinking of another Square. I think it was Square Enix. one.
It's Square
I'm glad
Enix.
you reminded me of that.
Square Enix not mad, just financially disappointed.
For some reason, Reiner was like, I don't think we can run. I was like, really?
Come on. That's too scathing. Come on.
The
That's
Final
good.
Fantasy 16 one was so good too because it was like they were the cover like a month or two later or something like that.
Right.
Like we didn't want to poke the bear too much.
I understood that one.
And I think the button on your joke there, Marcus, was then the DLC black character. It's actually like a black mage.
Yeah, it was
job.
black mage.
It's not even a black person. Like, yeah,
that was gonna be the
Oh my God.
We got a couple more.
Okay.
Randy Pitchford gives merit increases by pulling coin from behind employees' ears.
That's all right. Good.
That was a good one. And then okay, I'll do one more. This was one I feel like this is one that we should have run. This is a Blake joint, and he was always hesitant to say it, to put it out. I thought it was funny. Congress passes new bill sending adult Persona fans who say best girl straight to prison. I always thought that was a good one.
Wait, Alex, you did not say the one I thought you would say.
Which one?
Because there was one that we were all just like dying, and we maybe more than any other one we fought for, and it was the simplest headline, but it had so many layers to it, and it was just Kratos finds God.
Three words.
Because you can take that so many directions. It's like, is that good or bad? Like, what does that mean exactly for God?
Those are always so fun. That was like the April issue, the big jokey issue, or it'd be Game and Farser in there with a bunch of jokes.
These are not as funny as Game and Farce ones, but I never actually pitched this. But I had in my back pocket that I wanted to do a full page, 1-page opinion piece. That was just opinion. I don't want to fight dogs anymore. and then just have it be a single sentence that's like, it makes me feel bad and I don't want to shoot them. Like, just like, that's it. Like, I don't need to expand on why. I never pitched that one. And then I had 2 top 5s that we never did. That I like, we did inspired by Vincent specifically. I wanted to do top 5 vampires in games that are not about vampires, like just a vampire shows up.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I always liked that would have been great for like asset layout was top 5 Fortnite characters who absolutely should not be using guns. Like whether it's like
that's fun.
lore or canon, like Aang from Avatar should not be holding a gun, you know? Like I always wanted to do that one too.
It's always such a thrill, like being, you know, on the video team. Every time I'd pitch something for like Game and Farce, it's like, oh my God, that joke actually made it in. Or like, you know, anytime I pitch something at issue meeting and actually come through, like it doesn't sound like much, but as somebody who didn't write for the magazine regularly, every time something squeezed through, it was like, oh my God, yes. Because normally every time I'd talk in an issue meeting, I'd be like, shut up, video boy, shut up. It was basically, that was a tone I felt every time I opened my mouth. But I
Was
remember
Matt Miller saying that?
classic Miller. Yeah.
Always
And
call
then,
you video boy.
yeah.
He
And
was
then
nice to writers only.
yeah.
That was my experience.
He dragged me to the bathroom, gave me a swirly.
All caps, work more, Slack messages.
But it was like my best day at Game Informer ever, where we're talking about like what could be a top 10 of the magazine. And I said, helicopter boss fights? And everyone's like, yeah. And like the entire room lit up like, yeah, you can do this. You can do this. I was like, I did it. Like I was carried out of the room like a champion for helicopter boss fights. I was so proud of it.
Was the Devil May Cry 2 helicopter in there?
Oh, you better believe the Devil May Cry. I have no memory. Actually, what was it?
My favorite one like that was surprise snowboarding. Because I was like games where all of a sudden you're just snowboarding. And like it started as like, well, that's one game, Final Fantasy VII. And they were like, well, hold on. Actually in Twilight Princess that happens too. And they were like, actually, there's a Sonic Adventure level where all of a sudden you're just on a snowboard. And we like got to 10 and we're like, hell yeah, we got a list.
I don't know why your top 10s are always kind of feel bashy towards Final Fantasy VII. If we could tweak those a little bit, Kyle, I'd appreciate that.
The main thing I can think of not getting out there was in the wake of the layoffs, struggling to be motivated to do anything.
Oof, rough time.
I want to say it was Ben Reeves' idea. We were just like, you know, talking crap in the bullpen, avoiding working.
You talk crap on work property? On the premises?
And if, you know, our mandated 15-minute break in our 8-hour day.
Of course.
That Miller allowed you.
And I think it was Ben Reeves. I hope it was. A game show called Knife Eat.
Oh my God, Knife Eat. Yes. Yes.
It was going to be trying to eat different things with only a knife. Because we're trying to just visualizing like this, dramatic intro of just the words knife eat, like Iron Chef flying towards the screen. I forgot Game Informer's channel for no reason.
Is that New Show Plus? Is New Show Plus get knife eat?
Oh my God, absolutely. Because it wasn't just a one-off joke. It was, I cannot emphasize enough how sad that office was. And it was like, what the hell can we do? What can we do that would actually cheer us up? Can we crank out anything? Leo made the classic video, top 5 things I want to pee on in Death Stranding that was axed before it went live, sadly.
Now available on my Patreon.
Check it out, please. It's good.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
but
cool.
it wasn't just a mention. I feel like it was days of like, guys, we're making Knife Eat. Yeah, and it was like, and then it would be like volleying different foods of like, the challenge is like, can you eat nachos with a knife? Like, it's everything. It was going back to Knife Eat. And I just, how has that not been New Show Plus? MinnMax was made for Knife Eat.
For real.
MinnMax was made for Knife Eat. I want that on a t-shirt.
Oh, stop.
I would give my grandma a stroke.
God damn it, I forgot about Knife Eat. That made me so happy.
You pitched it like just now. I thought it was like you had to eat a knife.
Yeah.
Like that was like the competition.
What?
Like, you
No,
had to
it's
figure
just,
out
can
how
you-
to eat
we
a
Weren't
knife.
that far gone, I guess.
No, yeah, it was like, here's a bowl of pumpkin soup. You have a knife. Get eaten. God, I love that. Captain Cobblepot writes in and says, hey, everybody. I just want to thank you all for your work at Game Informer. These copies I have held tightly to will continue to carry your legacies. Long after you're all dead, just know that Captain Cobblepot is holding tightly onto these issues of the Game Informer.
Thank you.
My question for you, what's the coolest experience that working at GI gave you? Could be an interview, an event, people, location visits, anything. Respect to y'all and good luck with your future adventures.
I got to go to a museum I've always wanted to go to in Tokyo. called Tokyo Team Lab Planets. It was like a religious experience going through it. You have to like climb a waterfall in it, and then you go and you're in a giant bath of like milk with like these neon fish dancing across the water, and then you go into this room that's a giant like mirror circle with all of these trippy things happen. It was once in a lifetime like experience, and not related to games whatsoever, but I went with Shea on our Final Fantasy VII trip, which also like I got to interview a lot of like prolific developers on that trip. You know, Nomura, Katase, Hamaguchi. That was a good one.
That's amazing.
I feel like the travel stuff was always big because I love travel. And it was never lost on me how privileged it was to not only get to travel all over the world on someone else's dime, but then also to be paid to do it.
It's crazy.
Like I got to go to Japan a couple times. I've been to Europe a few times, you know, all over the US. And so like that, that's something that I'm probably going to miss a lot, honestly. But maybe personally, just as a gigantic wrestling fan, for those that might not know, the last couple of years for the WWE 2K event, they usually have an event in January, the weekend of the Royal Rumble. So I went to the last two, like this year and last year. And so like getting to go play the video game early, and then also a few of the wrestlers are there. Like this year I interviewed Cody Rhodes, who's like a giant Zelda fan, and I just asked him nerdy Zelda questions. And then after that event, they take you, like you get to go to the Royal Rumble itself, like in the press box and watch it. So, and then for some reason they didn't do it this year, but last year they let us go to the press conference afterwards that they also like air live. And for any fellow WWE fans in chat, that was Bray Wyatt's last real public thing, who he passed away a few months later, unexpectedly. So like he gave this amazing sort of like speech about creativity and what it means to like take risk and be creative, because he was an obscenely creative guy and just did things in wrestling that just no one has ever done. And so like just kind of be just a few feet away from him as he was talking about just his thoughts on what it meant to be creative was something that still stuck with me. And I'll look up that video every now and then. So like that's something that this job afforded me, just to be like, oh my God, I'm backstage. Like I'm just hanging out with the wrestlers. This is where people get jumped on TV and stuff. Usually like I'm just here. This is cool.
Yeah, the travel was amazing. It is. And it was not lost on me how lucky I was to be carted around the world like that in a way I never would have been able to otherwise. And it was a weird crossover where like a year in, I went to Sweden for the Rage 2 trip, and I was like bad with money still at that time, living paycheck to paycheck. And I was like in Sweden out of money completely. But I was like, I'll just wait to eat until Id takes us out for dinner tonight. Like it was a weird, weird, unique situation to be broke in Sweden because of my situation and because I was irresponsible with money.
But then be like, well, I have a cushion of, you know, it's all GameStop's time technically, and ID's,
yeah. I don't know. It was a moment that highlighted how odd it was that I was even there.
Yeah.
I mean, just how I felt on all those trips with my lack of expertise setting up those interviews and whatnot.
a lot of pinch yourself moments on those.
Oh, it's constant. Yeah. I mean, the travel is number one. Like it's pretty wild. Like I went on 80 cover story trips at Game Informer, and it was just like looking back on that, like, oh, I couldn't think of a better way to spend my 20s than just every month going to a different location, sometimes international, just always a surprise. And it was always just like, I'd be editing the cover story features for one trip while going on another trip and then planning the next trip. So just like that three-way constant idea of like, okay, you're editing the videos of you in Japan, but then you're editing this video of you in San Francisco, but then also you're planning and locking down travel for when you're going to, England. It was a wild gift to be able to go on that. And I know it definitely fried me out a bit. I was still so enthusiastic, but speaking of bosses trying to cool you down, I feel like there's a lot of times like, Hansi, you need to slow down. You don't need to go on every cover story trip. Like you can let Jason A. Striker go on some if he wants to. And Jason's like, I'm happy staying here. I'm happy staying behind. And so it was a matter of like, I'm never going to get this chance again. Like, if no one else is that enthusiastic, like, I will go on every one of these trips and meet all these developers. And I'm so glad that I did, because it really opened my eyes to the world and the industry. And yeah, it was everything.
And it kind of made the perfect situation for me where I could only went on the ones that I wanted to go on.
Right.
You know, wanting to go on fewer than you did. It was like, I'll just pick the ones. And the first one I went on was the Spider-Man trip. Like, you having no problems handing that over to me was like really cool. And
well, that's what I'm trying to remember. I mean, that was such a biggie. I'd been to Insomniac before, and so for the Fused cover story trip, so maybe there's a situation of like, well, if I have to let go of one, but I mean, that one was so huge. In retrospect,
that was you, me, and Reiner, right, Leo? Right? That was
yeah,
that, right?
I'm sure there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to let go, but it's nice that you don't remember me being too much of a jerk about. I feel like it was usually just like the classic thing of like, scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to go on this trip? And I'll have my number, you have your number, and it's like, all right, there we go. That seems like the fairest way to do it.
And it was like, it feels like Leo should go on one soon, and this is like up his alley, so why not?
Right. Crime alley. Yeah, I think like the wildest was just thinking about like, the coolest experience was, going for Metro Exodus. And I was like, all right, next cover story, because it's always fun. Like, we had like a Monday meeting where it's kind of like the team leads in the office on the 3rd floor kind of go over and over the future of what we have coming up and all this stuff. And that's like where I would first hear about what's coming up. And so I was like, okay, it looks like we locked down the Metro Exodus cover story, so we got to start booking travel for that. And it's like, okay, cool. I was like, okay, you're going to be going to Malta. It's developed in Malta because the developers were making it in Ukraine, but after some violence there, and there were like bullet holes in the wall of their studio, and they're like, we need to get out. And so a core group of that team then went to Malta to finish off Metro Exodus. And so that was a weird thing of like, yeah, I'll fly to Malta. Then I had to Google, where is Malta? But like, that was like JV and Bert's and I. And then when I think of like just the most surreal trips, that was a huge one of like, oh, flying over Africa to land for a Game Informer cover story trip. That was such a wild one. But yeah, wild good times. And like, this is, sentimental, but thinking about like the weirdest experiences or the coolest gift that Game Informer gave you. Keeping it anonymous, of course. But like thinking about it, it's like, oh, I met several long-term girlfriends through Game Informer, not in the office, but like through connections at Game Informer and stuff like that. And it's like, that's ultimately the big impact of like years of my life with these people and stuff. Like that's huge.
You dated my mom for a while. Yeah,
that is true. Your mom's big.
I mean, you meet like people that become your peers and then your friends. Like you see a lot of the same people at events and stuff.
Yeah.
And you talk to them, you get to know them more and more, and you're almost as excited to go just to run into someone as you are for whatever it is that you're there for.
Yeah.
I mean, some of my favorite memories are just like the non-work stuff of like going out to dinner with like a team and just like getting to know them better. Like maybe my favorite dinner was for the Alex and I when we went to Osaka for the Resident Evil 4 remake cover.
Oh man.
Like the last day we went out to dinner with the whole team, and we went to like some very traditional place. We're like sitting down, and we got to try raw horse meat for the first time.
What?
Yeah, they had like horse meat, like shaved horse meat.
Yeah,
and it was like
this feels more like a Resident Evil 7 dinner, the Resident Evil 4 dinner.
Yeah, and it was not terrible either. But then there was a point in the dinner where, because we were there with the two directors, like Yashiro Onpoi and Kazunori Kadoi. And I don't even know how this came up, Alex. Maybe you remember, but we just started talking about like Ghost, and we started sharing like personal Ghost stories.
Yeah.
And Onpoi and Kadoi were so into this discussion. We were like, it was like a 40-minute conversation.
And it was really dramatic too, because you'd like say a sentence or two, let it be translated.
Yeah.
And just the tension.
I
it was
love
great.
You
it.
could see in their eyes. I'm telling them, I love talking about Ghost stuff. And so like to see just the childlike wonder in their eyes as I'm telling them the stories that I've heard, and then they're relaying their story. I forgot which one of them said that they were pretty sure the office was haunted, like the Capcom office. Like they were saying, like, I've heard some stuff at late at night.
You see ghosts after midnight.
Oh, that's so good. But especially because like the first version of Resident Evil 4 had like ghosts in it and stuff. Like that's
I asked them about that, if they would put that in the remake. Like,
I think that would have been so cool to have an Easter egg of like the original weird screenshots. I'm trying to remember what the ghost even looked like. Kyle, do you remember? It was like
it's like a Hookman, right?
Hookman.
Yeah, there's a lot
ghost,
of fog too. You would have to like outrun fog and stuff like
that.
Yeah, they just put Silent Hill in the game.
Of course.
It's an interesting choice. Yeah. So that's like a dinner conversation that I still hold dear, because it was just so unexpected, but it was just so much fun.
Yeah. It is so weird. And like, this is the part that I think ultimately I'm struggling with on several different levels is like just kind of the emotional ownership of Game Informer. Like it's dead now, which is absurd to think about, but just that struggling of like, we all own our memories. And so like that weird, especially for stuff like MinnMax of like, we don't want to claim like, this is Game Informer stuff now. Where it's like, I don't know, like I have these videos on my phone. Like, I think that's fine to share from Game Informer stuff. And it's just, I feel like everyone who was at Game Informer has like a weird level of ownership over it. And it's kind of an interesting democratized situation that it's in now of like, well, it's nobody's. It's all just memories at this point. And even the site, it's just memories now. Like, you know, at SGF, we were talking, like Dan Reichert and I were talking to Andy McNamara about visiting the office, because this is after we did that tour that Alex Van Aken brought us around in March of 2024 to record all that and stuff. And we're talking about like just the stuff in that office. And Dan was like, oh, I really wanted to find the Mario Party certificate that Nintendo sent for Game Informer's terrible reviews of Mario Party 1 and 2. And it's interesting because Andy, his gut reaction was like, well, you can't claim that. Like that belongs to the reviewers of Mario Party, and he listed them off. I forget exactly what their names are. And it struck me as so funny, that idea, and it's fine. And like we all feel that emotionally, but just the idea of like, even Andy at this point, that many years later is like, well, that obviously belongs to the people that reviewed that. But it's like, ultimately it doesn't. I guess it's in GameStop's storage now, whatever the hell that means, yada, yada, yada. Hopefully more to come on that front. But it's just such a weird idea of like, it's still so rock solid in Andy's mind of like, well, that belongs to these people, you know. It's such, it's just a weird divvying of emotions that ultimately, what does it mean of who owns what and what memories are whose? It's a weird mess.
It's like I respect that for sure, but and on the other hand, it's almost like, how do we just get it out of GameStop's hands and then figure it out?
Right. And at the same time, Michael Berry watching us live at the Backstage Pass here, he says, knife eat for horse meat. And so that's another thing to think about.
Ooh,
I feel like.
That's ours.
I think that was in the pitch document for Resident Evil 4 Remake was knife eat.
Yeah.
Knife eat horse meat, question mark?
On a whiteboard.
And Marcus is like, is this like a mistranslation? They're like,
this is our new approach to knife only runs.
Eat up, Ashley. Eat up. Hunter Sachs writes in and says, my grandfather is the reason why I play video games. In his retirement, he chose video games to spend his time. Living in St. Paul and being a block away from a GameStop, we naturally read Game Informer. I've been following it since I was a child. I was introduced to Oblivion because of the Game Informer monthly recommended. That Oblivion cover is so iconic because we had the poster blown up in the office and it said, coming to the Xbox 2, Oblivion. Because like before they had a name for it.
Right, yeah.
I'm trying to remember. The other one was like there's a big poster blown up and it had a blurb for Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door. And I think, what was it? I think it was the blurb for Paper Mario, and it was called Super Mario RPG 2 or something. Because it's one of those very early things. Like, I don't know what the hell to call this thing yet. Anyways, fun fact. Okay, there's 1,000 stories about like calling things at Game Informer. Right, hang on. I got to remind myself about this next week to ask some of the old timers about that and tell those stories. Because Andy McNamara had a bigger influence on naming games than you would think, even though he's very modest about talking about it. But I remember like when they came to the office to show Black Flag, like, you know, we're not in control of any of this stuff, obviously. I remember Ubisoft like pulling Matt Miller aside specifically to be like, do you think we should call this Assassin's Creed 4? And like hearing that conversation from like Miller, a huge Assassin's Creed fan of like, he's like, I think the numbers denote a different time frame. And just like, it's interesting to hear them all break that down. Not saying Matt Miller named that Black Flag game. What was I saying? Anyways, here we go. I've been following it since I was a child.
We're just letting you go, man. You're just go off.
But Hunter Sachs says, I played Okami and I played Halo. My grandfather and I would walk down once a month, buy a copy of Game Informer and buy whatever the monthly recommended game was. I played through Resident Evil 4 with him thanks to Game Informer. The magazine and the many years it existed played a part not only in my love of games, but my childhood and my relationship with my grandfather. Is there a game that you wouldn't have played without Game Informer in your life?
One that immediately comes to one that always pops to mind is Before Your Eyes, because I reviewed that, and that was a game that was not even assigned to me. I just got a press release for it one day when it was, like, hey, we're sending out review codes, and I was like, oh, I read the release and watched the trailer, and I don't know what, just the premise, and not even just the story premise, just the eye tracking stuff. I was like, oh, that's neat, and I was like in between reviews, and the staff was bigger than, so I had a little more free time, I guess. So I remember messaging Joe or whoever was reviewing. It might have been Joe. Just saying, like, hey, can I take this on, a small little game? And they're like, yeah. And then playing it 90 minutes later and like crying my eyes out and saying, I think I'm going to review this and give this a very good score. And then being the champion of that game for a while in the office, like, guys, you need to play Before Your Eyes. Come on, I can't be the only one at the end of the year. And I think just talking to Alex Stadnick and him also saying, like, yeah, I cried so much that I had to explain to my wife why she found me sobbing uncontrollably at the computer when she came home.
God, that game slayed me. Have you played it?
Yeah, that's one.
Have you played it in VR?
I don't know. I don't have any VR stuff, so yeah.
What? Are you even a real gamer? No. No, I've been meaning to go back and replay that one because it's just,
I'm excited for their next one. I actually, that was one of my last magazine features was Good Night Universe, the team, the core team of Before Your Eyes that split off to make their own team. And that's like their spiritual successor where he plays the psychic baby. Yeah, that was probably like 2 issues ago that I wrote.
Get your tissues ready.
Yeah, there you go. Tommy White writes in, any chance Marcus and Kyle can finish their Majora's Mask super replay that they were in the middle of at Game Informer, but do it through MinnMax?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We're doing it. All right. So how does this work? So you were in the middle, or where were you at in Majora's Mask for the
restart?
Well, you restart every couple of hours in that game anyway. But no, we were making our way to the final dungeon.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
We're in the whatever that area is that the last dungeon's in. Like we did the last thing we did was all the nonsense with the little girl in the house and killing the skeletons, and there's all kinds of running around we were doing. But yeah,
that last dungeon takes a while to get to and then to complete. So we're like it's not like we're like at the end necessarily.
Yeah.
But the plan is we haven't set specific times yet because I got to take the dog to the groomer. It's very important. But Marcus and I think we're going to try to do a long stream this Friday to play more Majora's Mask, and I think we can continue it maybe in a week or two if we don't finish it.
Marathon.
That's it. This is our only shot.
I mean, you have more than one shot, but I think it's way more fun to make it an event and go for as long as you can. I think it'd be fun to finish it in one go. So yeah, so MinnMax is.
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be great.
I don't even know if this is my first time playing it, so I don't even know if that's possible or not. But we'll see.
Yeah, MinnMax's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MinnMax Show. Follow it, and then on this Friday, August 9th, that'll be happening. We'll put the archive up on YouTube. But just a heads up that 200% of all Twitch subs during that stream will go to Kyle and Marcus. So keep that in mind as it rolls throughout.
And can we legally call it Super Replay? Does GameStop own the name?
Oh no.
Do we have to come up with like a Games Choice version of Super Replay name, like Stupendous Revisit or something? Or
Stupendous Revisit.
Let's call it Replay Eat. I don't know. Something like that.
It's confusing. Knife Eat.
Didn't
Majora's
Troy
Mask?
Baker have a podcast called Replay for a while?
Retro Replay.
Yeah.
A Retro Replay is what they call it.
Him and Nolan North split because of creative differences.
Yeah, you need our version of like when a wrestler goes from one company to another and they kind of change their name. So it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it's not Super Replay, Stupendous Revisit. What is he doing on this show?
I changed.
You call it like Replay Love.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
I feel like I overcompensated for that. Like for trivia, we used to do back of the box trivia at Game Informer. And I'm like, well, at MinnMax, we'll do game case trivia. And I'm like, that's so stupid. You think GameStop's going to come and be like, we need back of the box trivia? That we own that. Like,
desist.
Of course not. And so,
Well, I need to know, Hanson, the copyright 2017 or whatever we put on every video. Did that do something? I've been meaning to ask you.
Of course it did. That was just a way to end the videos.
That was a decorative copyright.
Yeah, it wasn't even a real C. It was just a Google in MS Paint, little doodle. Oh. So yes, I look forward to that on MinnMax's channel there. Zach Killian writes in and says, "Hello, MinnMax. One of my favorite videos y'all did was the replays and super replays. Thank you. It is very fun, by the way. This is a larger Game Informer discussion about like, people are like, oh, I love Game Informer. And it's like, wait. It's like, I used to read it in 2002. It's like, okay. That's so different from like, I love Overblood. I'm like, oh, okay. I can't talk about the magazine. I can talk about Overblood. Anyways, so they say, so my question is, what was your favorite replay episode? And is there a game you wanted or wished you did a replay episode on?
So an individual episode, not even just the whole replay.
I was on, I think it was Mega Man X2.
Yeah.
We did a replay of, and I will always be fond of that episode because I had a reputation for if I was playing, it was going to be bad. We were not going to make progress. I was like the worst on the sticks editor during a replay.
I beg to differ, but sure, yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe I did it more than whoever you're referencing. There's no way of knowing. Yeah, but when we did Mega Man X2, it was like all of a sudden I was a freaking expert and I was like speed running that game, and they're like, "Where's this version of Kyle that's usually around?" Fun. But also Shenmue. I'll always have affection for doing both the Shenmues with Reiner. That was such a weird, funky one. Yeah, there's a lot of good episodes.
I'm so glad, Kyle. I had to really fight for your first day in the office when you did the replay on Halo. You recorded it, and it was you. We did single player, and then we did multiplayer, and you mopped the floor with the editors, and you were really cocky and shitty about it. And nobody liked it. And I was in the camp of like, guys, this is such a good raw look at this dude on his first day. Like, we need to keep it. And it was like several rounds of begging certain people, like, please, let's not just delete that. We need to put that up. It was a stupid discussion, but I'm so glad that now it's preserved. You being a little on your first day.
Well, it's funny because it was like completely misrepresentative of what the rest of my sort of playing video games on, replay would be in the future. You would, because I just happened to be a big Halo player,
right?
And that's just how it worked out. And I always the thing that I was quote unquote proud about in that episode is you would bleep profanity. And so I made the first thing I said be a profanity, so that the very first thing I ever said on a Game Informer video would be a bleep profanity, which I was very proud of that joke.
That's a good joke.
I just always thought that was very funny.
You really came into that house and just kicked your feet up on the couch.
Yeah.
You got comfortable real fast.
He's like kicking a guy's ass his first day in prison. He's like, what is this attitude?
I feel like I need to watch this to expand my understanding of Kyle as a person.
It would be interesting to go back to.
Kyle, you have such... I don't know if it's because you're literally a dad or because you're also kind of my boss, but you just give such dad vibes to me. That the idea that you were the young little hot shit on the block is very funny.
All right, let's see. Here we go, Kyle. Let's see. First replay appearance.
Oh, you're pulling it
up. This old intro.
You are watching another episode of Replay. I am your host, Andrew Reiner. Today I am joined by Joe Juba.
Yeah.
Jeff Cork.
Hello.
And Kyle... Do you got a last name?
Strife.
Kyle Strife.
I like it. It's one of my favorite video game character names.
Welcome to Replay, Kyle. This is your first episode.
There you go.
We're starting with a little-known game called Halo.
How can you let that go?
I think that joke holds up.
I think that's a great joke. To them. I think it's a great joke.
Very avant-garde.
I was so nervous too. Oh my god, I was so nervous.
Oh my god, absolutely. My favorite episode of Replay, I feel like, I don't even know if I was on the mic. I don't think I was. I think I was just producing it, but I was like, this is the perfect replay. Was the replay of Zone of the Enders. Because Zone of the Enders is a game that's like awesome, fun to talk about. And then the replay roulette in the back half was just the demo of Metal Gear Solid 2. So it was like going from Zone of the Enders love to like, oh my God, then this demo was just everything Zone of the Enders was, but even more. Let's unpack all of this. And it was just an hour of raw enthusiasm for that pairing. I think that's, in my mind, the best episode of Replay we're ever on. But I remember it was pretty early on where, it's weird coming to an office and being like, okay, what's the vibe? What are the jokes like? Who are these people? And I remember it was like one of the first days in the Game Informer office. And keep in mind, this is 2010, different era. It's not offensive, but keep in mind.
Get ready, backstage pass. This one's for you.
No. But I remember it was like, somebody said something dumb, and then someone's like, that was my band name in high school. And I remember it was like, this was before that was fully cliched. And I was like, okay. It's this type of jokey office. I like being in an office where they can make that's a great band name joke when you say a stupid sentence. But I remember the first time that I died on Earth, was we were doing a replay, and the roulette was like a Berenstain Bears game. Berenstain Bears. What do you guys think is going on? What's up with this Mandela effect? Anyways,
It's real.
Yeah, it was some platformer, and so I just remember Tim Turry was on the sticks, and he was like Sister Bear and Brother Bear, and they're both walking on the screen, and I think like one of them, like Sister Bear was like following the other character, and Tim had to like jump over this gap. And he was like getting closer to the gap, and then like the AI character walked off it and fell to their death, but Tim was still on the ledge. And Tim just said, "Oh, this is the Berenstain Bears book where Brother Bear made a suicide pact, and then Sister Bear didn't follow through with it." And I was dying. Like that was really the first time that I was like melting down, laughing in the background of replay. Like, okay, if this is the type of jokes that are in this office, I have found my home. This is so twisted. Twisted.
Can I shout out the final episode of our Sekiro Super Replay?
Yeah.
Which is also unfinished, and maybe I'll revisit one day. Which actually now that's something I regret we never got to do before we closed. That was when that replay that I did with Reiner and Dan Tack during our spree of doing Souls replay, and I think that was the episode or the episode when we first started doing the Hot Wing challenges with Souls games.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's what
we joked around about it in the previous episode, just like off the cuff as we were talking, and then like after that, Reiner DMs me and Dan Tack saying like, "What if we actually did that?" And we're like, "I'll do it."
Perfect.
And so that episode was me struggling against the great ape for like the entirety of the episode, with the stipulation being every time I died, they had to eat a wing of increasing heat, because we got like Buffalo Wild Wings, like of all varieties, from like mild, medium to like insane hot. Though I did not have to eat the super hot wings, and my excuse was like, well, I have to play the game. I can't be dying. So, but because of that, and because of that fight being so hard, I died so much that they ran through an episode's worth of wings on one within like the first half hour. Perfect. And their reactions and just seeing them gradually go more and more insane, and then yelling at me saying like, Dan just like, "What are you doing to me, Marcus?" Like, what are you? And then him discovering that I had all these, like, I guess helpful items that I was not using. And I just went into my menu at one point, and he just like flipped his lid. It's like, "You have like power boosting this, and like you could use this." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know any of these things did this." It's like, what are you? And he just accused me of sabotaging him on purpose. Like he had just gone off the deep end. But just that episode was so unhinged. And then at the final like 5 minutes, me finally beating him, and just the wave of relief. It was a moment. And if I never go back to that game and stream it in any way, I can't think of a better ending to that thing. It was it was a wild episode.
Extreme Chad voice. It was a movie, bro.
Cinema.
It was like a movie.
It was literally a YouTube video, dude.
Yeah, I was thinking about like the games that we never did a replay on that we always wanted to. And I just like, I wonder if I have notes in my phone. And I pulled up, just searched replay on my phone, and it was like all of my notes apps going back to like 2012 were just like, reminder, do this replay. And so some of them that we never got to was Totally Angelica on PS1, which we sang that song 1,000 times. It was like an Extra Life incentive, like the commercial for Totally Angelica. It was so damn catchy and good.
I mean, you gotta pull it up, right? I mean,
did we ever post that? I hope we did.
I think it's like if you say its name, it has to.
It has to come up. Totally
it was
Angelica.
saved on the studio computer. I remember stumbling across that file.
God damn it!
I'm surprised it's not just on your soundboard. I feel like you should
really
have that at the ready.
Yeah. Should be.
I made, but to be clear, I made like zero progress on this. But when I was at Game Mill working on Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, I did try to be like, can we like get Totally Angelica like on the soundtrack?
Really?
Or like, is that, yeah, like I messaged it to a couple people, but like there was just no way that was ever gonna happen. But I at least like I had the thought and wanted to try to do it.
I got bad news. Unless somebody knows in the archives where it would be, it's not on YouTube. It was a VHS tape. That was a commercial for Totally Angelical on PS1. It was the catchiest goddamn song in the world. Yeah. And it was like Jason Daphnis, and I forget who the other intern was, but we just sang it 1,000 times, and it was a big Extra Life thing. So we never did the PS1 game, which kills me. Survival Kids was another one on Game Boy. I always wanted to do the Konami survival game where it's like 2 kids on an island. Also Half-Life Decay, Kyle, the co-op game that Gearbox made. I always wanted to do that. I thought
would
that'd be a great
yeah.
one. Also, Ski Free. I thought would just be a great replay that we never did.
yeah.
You know,
That's
it's like
a
those
fun idea.
those obvious big ones. But there's a Jack Flash, Jumpin' Jack Flash we never did. You know, 1,000 games that would have been great.
I'm really fond of the Killer 7 Super Replay with Reiner and Joe Juba and Suriel. That one's, it's like we just get less and less interested in talking about the game over the course of it until it's just fully we're just doing a podcast about nothing for the last 5 episodes. And I've gone back to it a couple times. It's really funny.
Yeah, and you had Pseudos 51 like on the last episode, right?
Yeah.
That was so cool.
And we got to run all our inside jokes by him for his approval.
Yeah.
And I wore a tank top that somebody sent in that said sexual, which the character, this mysterious character you're talking to the whole game, is always wearing a tank top with some different word on it, word or phrase. And the first time you meet him, it says sexual, and he had no idea. We asked him about it later. He was like, I just thought you were wearing a weird shirt.
That's perfect.
I formed my entire opinion of you.
This guy wears a tank top at the office.
That was such a cool thing. I'm trying to remember how that timing worked out. It just happened to be like we're playing through Killer 7 right now, and you're coming to the office, and we could time this up with the final episode. Like, what a weird gift. Like, that's the amazing thing of Game Informer.
For real.
Let's see. Boondock Bandit writes in and says, "Hey crew, wishing the best for the recently former Game Informer team. Hope you all land on your feet quickly. Has anyone in this podcast group contributed to the Game Informer Vault? If so,
I have.
What did you contribute?"
I contributed a boxed, sealed copy, I think, of Lawbreakers, a Lawbreakers Collector's
Oh,
Edition.
awesome. Because you're such a huge fan of
Because I
that.
had 2. And I was like, well, it's not going to sell this thing. Nobody's going to buy a defunct game. I was like, I'll put it in the vault.
That's perfect.
That's somewhere in there.
Yeah, I know Reiner, a lot of other editors contributed their own collections into the vault with the idea of like, oh, this is a research library for Game Informer editors. It's not a Game Informer thing, because the idea is these companies would send us the games and most people would take them home, but we just happen to store these things that we normally would take home in the vault. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens. A lot of number one question, by the way, is what's happening to the vault? What's happening to the vault? Hopefully, GameStop does the right thing. Some messages have been relayed and relayed back. Is probably the best update we can give there. But in terms of contributions, I guess this is probably number one contribution that I made here. Let's see.
Come on, girls, get ready. Got stuff to live your dreams. Who wants to be a princess when you can be the queen? I'm totally Angelica in every single way. Totally Angelica.
Who wants to be me today?
You know you got the power to be the girl you choose. Show them what you're made of.
Tell the world the news.
I'm totally Angelica. I'm what I want to be. Totally Angelica.
Rugrats, Totally Angelica products sold totally separately.
Can I?
Somehow this is unlisted on MinnMax channel with 60 views. Bob Buell, why do you have this list?
It's a song. You've got to play it.
Oh my God.
You also have a lunch parody version of that by tomorrow, I assume.
Oh, please.
Yeah, the thing with
Angel
when
Harry
I make
Potter.
the audio lunch parodies, I just look up karaoke versions of songs on YouTube a lot
Smart.
of time, just because it's just for internal use. That doesn't exist for this one, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to. This is gonna have to be recreated from scratch.
Okay, all right.
And you are still required to make those lunch songs. Don't think just because you're out of work.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we were very clear at the time, like when during Game Informer, it's like you're doing these for fun. Don't consider yourself required to do this. That's
Please.
changed now. Charles.
Yep.
yeah,
It's
now
completely
I have
flipped.
And
Yep.
we have the least amount of ability to enforce that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I'm not your boss, I need you to do this.
Andrew Burns, thank you, Bob Buell, for saving that video. See, that's how history happens, everybody. Totally Angelica, that commercial would have been lost to time. And one of the greatest songs of our era, Bob Dylan wept when he heard that for the first time. Andrew Burns writes in and says, one of the things I used the site for at Game Informer was listening to old episodes of the Game Informer Show podcast in the Matt Helgeson era before they were uploaded to YouTube. Is there any chance these were archived anywhere? It'd be such a shame to permanently lose stuff like the Skyward Sword episode of the Game Informer Show. That one is a wild one where Andy has some strong thoughts on that game. And Gamer Guerrilla Radio. Great question, Andrew Burns. Check out MinnMax's Discord. There might be a channel you'd be interested in, but you can rest easy at night. Let's see. Backlog Busters on that note says, and I didn't write this, I want to be very clear, But he says, or they say, did anyone at Game Informer realize they had a Double Fine Productions level of documentarian in their midst, as Ben Hansen seemingly recorded enough for a feature-length Blu-ray release for Game Informer's history just for fun? Backlog Busters, you're too kind. I do not have that much footage. I have a lot of stuff. Releasing it is a minefield of emotions and legality. That said, we do have a big documentary that I was filming since 2016 about preserving Game Informer's history for years and years. Be like, let's pick it up, let's record more. And so we're going to cap off the celebration of Game Informer with that documentary, which is going to be more nerdy and more of a deep dive than you could possibly imagine into Game Informer's history. Not the full history of the magazine, but the magazine's archives is a better way to put it. That said, speaking about minefield of emotions and legality, that is one that we're working with other people on. And so it's a matter of like, when it's done being edited, we can shove it out the door because we're not partnering, but there's kind of a three-way pact of like, we all need to be on the same page before this comes out. And so if we cap off the celebration of Game Informer 2 weeks from now, that'd be awesome. There's a chance maybe we cap it off 8 months from now. I'm just trying to warn everybody that there is a documentary that's, I think, is going to be very fun. But it might be a while before we're all on the same page. Graham Jones writes in, but we'll get to that later. Quilgrim writes in and asks, what was it about the Game Informer workplace culture that fostered such a deep camaraderie among the team members over the years?
I think everyone just was kind, at least during my time, like it didn't get you very far to be an asshole. And, everybody was just willing to pitch in, and it just really, I think also just going through so much crap together bonds you, like trauma bonding is probably a real thing that we share collectively.
Yeah. I think also like being somewhat isolated in the game industry in Minnesota, I think that led to like, I know you all are remote now, and Charles are in Ohio, and Marcus, you're in Florida, but I think like feeling like the outsiders, but still having more access than the insiders because of Game Informer's weird spot as the magazine was like a weird spot. But I'd always just think of like, oh, we're not cool like the IGN and GameSpot kids, But yet we would get crazy access because of the magazine numbers with developers. And so I think because of that, it just felt a little bit like, all right, we're the underdogs. We're going to hang out here and try and get along the best we can in this Minneapolis office.
Yeah. I mean, you pointed out that we were remote, but it never felt like that. Like, like everyone was always so welcoming, and it never felt like we were like off on our, like the island of lost toys or anything like that. And, I interned at GI in 2015, so I did get to work in the office with everyone. So I've been there for both, I guess, two very different eras of Game Informer. But like both times, I was always struck by how much it felt close and tight-knit. And like a family, which whenever I hear someone describe their workplace as like, oh, it's like family here, I like roll my eyes at it, because to me it's like, no, it's like I might like working here, but it's like, you're not my dad. let's calm it down, a bit.
What grow this mustache for then? What the hell?
But like with here, I can honestly say without any sense of like irony or hesitation, like it does feel like that, whether it was the people I worked with directly every day or even just alumni like, yourself, Ben, of, when I've gotten to hang out and meet with the former editors, it was always great. And that's the thing. One of the things I'm going to miss the most is working with, Kyle and Charles and Alex and everyone else that was there, because it was like everyone has each other's backs no matter what. And everyone was always looking out for each other. And like Alex said, when you kind of like are in the trenches with each other, it makes it a lot easier. And like as talented as we all might be individually, like everyone does their best work when you're being lifted up by other people, And that's something that I was reminded of every day there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that its age helped with that. Like when I was there, you'd hear stories about when they were starting out and sleeping at the office to finish reviews to get their magazine packed and stuff. But now it's like, these are people who have been here for decades and have families now and are still like so grateful that they get to do this for a living on this island, like Ben said. But it's also like, this is just a part of our lives. Like, we don't have to give everything to this the way we once felt like we had to or were pressured to or whatever. It's like that kind of wisdom comes with years of people not leaving. Like, the lack of turnover at that place for the longest time was really unusual. And that kind of feels Minnesotan too, versus like LA, a lot more spots where people could rotate, move from place to place. It's like, you're putting down roots here and you have no desire to leave.
I mean, that's a huge thing. That's a confusing part compared to, I think, a lot of other gaming outlets is people would work at Game Informer. And I remember this was, it's something that Andy talked about a lot and the higher ups talked about a lot of, like, we want to make a place that's, sustainable for people to work at and start families. And like that would create, I think, deep roots, and people wouldn't leave because of that, right? Because it's like, oh, you look around at the old timers, it's like they're raising kids here. There would be kids running through the office and stuff every once in a while. Kyle's kid, I think, was in the office every other day, from what I recall.
I would bring her by. I wouldn't shut up about her. Yeah. I do have a lot of wonderful pictures that I was looking back on of just her around the office, which is wonderful sweet. And nice.
I mean, I think it shows just how also like how so many of us, like, I guess now all alumni, have kept in touch and have stayed friends. Like, I feel like, when you work at most jobs, when you leave, you probably at best maybe keep in touch with one person at your job, but everyone else, even if you're cool with them, you're just like, all right, well, deuces, bye, have a good life. And like, to see how much everyone still stays in touch and checks in and just remain friends, I think is a testament to just how much it feels like a family.
Yeah. I think it's also like I think the reason when people are like, my workplace is a family, the reason that's always weird is because it is used as like an ulterior motive of like, we're like family, so you got to do this way, this thing. And the reason I think Game Informer felt more like a family is I often had people advocating for me in a way of like, oh, like Kyle all the time being like, oh, Charles, work less, or like take these hours if you need them, like that's fine. Or in like one of my first, and I probably wouldn't say this if we weren't all already out of Game Informer, but one of my earliest conversations there in the first week with Blake, because I just like to talk to people who want to get advice. He told me like a bunch of things, and one of them was like, also, by the way, don't feel any loyalty to Game Informer, the organization.
Right.
Like, there are people here that are nice, but if you get a better job and you want it, just leave. He told me this like week 2.
Right. Yep.
And I often got that sentiment. Like I don't like talk about it a lot publicly just because it doesn't come up, but like I was part-time. I worked 3 days a week at Game Informer and did other stuff the rest of my time. And Matt Miller was always like advocating for me, Matt and other people advocating to be like, yeah, Charles should be full-time. Charles should get the stuff everyone else gets. And he told me this often. He kept me in the loop of like, hey, I brought it up again in this meeting today, or hey, we're going to get this new person. I'm going to bring it up today. And he also was like, and by the way, if this is financially difficult for you to do this part-time job, you should get a different job. Like no one ever, everyone was always very nice to me. And then outside of the organization, Ben, I still don't know why you're so nice to me. You like brought me in and have me doing MinnMax stuff, and you flew me to Summer Game Fest. And I'm like, well, that's really great. You're super nice. We didn't know each other before we started working together.
I'll reveal the reasons years from now. It's going to be sick and twisted, but we'll find out eventually.
Jeff Cork, I met like once. And when I got laid off, he messaged me and was like, hey, let me know if you want to like talk or swap stories or anything. I'm like, what the heck? Why are you being so nice to me? So I guess I feel the same way as the question asker feels, because I don't really understand why it's happening either. All I can say is that it is happening. You're right to see it, and I don't understand why.
Nate Voris writes in, well, I mean, John, let me get to John's question first. There's so many here. John writes in, and I'm fascinated by this. I know no one wanted to answer this question, but let's see. So John writes in and says, I'm curious about the personal relationship between GameStop and Game Informer. Did you spend any time / get along with any individuals on the corporate side? What did the company barbecues look like? Like, Charles, you talk about like Miller saying, hey, there's somebody new above me. I'm trying to push for you to get full time. Like that insight into, after I left in 2018, I feel like I was so glued into what is going on? You're talking to GameStop now? Who are these rotating a-holes? above you. Like at some point in the masthead, there was like senior video producer, and I was talking to Alex and Nick, like, who is this guy? You're like, I don't know, it's some GameStop guy. It's like, who? Or maybe it was Static that I was talking to. But I was like, who are these people?
Oh, it was head of broadcast production.
But it was like listed on the Game Informer masthead. It's like, this is just a GameStop guy that.
Yeah, I absorbed that guy's job.
Oh, okay. Congratulations.
Wow.
And never got a promotion.
All right. Leo, that bit was cut out of the podcast. Only Backstage Pastors can hear that joke. How many times do I have to tell you?
Wow.
So what, I mean.
He lives in me now. He's in here.
I get it. Oh, no. I mean, from my era, it was like very, very, very little communication with GameStop. Andy was such a great bulwark for all that stuff. And like I would go to, I think I went to like 3 of the GameStop managers conferences. And that was the most in front, or just like, I don't know, the biggest cases of like, oh, talking to these people. Like I remember being at some stupid, I don't know, cocktail hour, yada, yada thing. And it was like, oh, I met some video producer at GameStop. And I was like, hey, why don't we talk? Like I personally, as long as you're not telling us what to do, I would love for more of Game Informer's videos to be in GameStops. I think that'd be cool. And it was always a really delicate balance because I think if you open that door, it's like you don't want them to be like, okay, but make this type of show, make this type of show. But it's like, if you want to run our coverage trailers for the new cover story, I don't know why that's not in GameStops. And then I would hear from people on Twitter, like, I saw your face on a GameStop TV. Like every once in a while I'll get out there, but not really.
That happened to me too.
Okay. Yeah. It was
inconsistent. I even like made a spreadsheet for them and like was updating it for like a month straight. I was like, are any of these in the store? None of them are beat. I'm wasting my time. So.
Right.
Yeah, how long did that last, Alex? There was that brief spree of our.
There was a brief spree where
then
it was about 3 months.
Okay.
It was like routinely like every week they were. That was actually the guy who got laid off, the guy who I absorbed into my body.
That was his thing.
That process died because he was the guy. He was like, yeah.
I mean, it's worth. Maybe I feel like we said this a lot forever, but like while we're talking about this, like one nice thing we can say about the parent company is like they did not like talk to us. They did not ever like express editorial control of any kind. They never even got close to that.
Well, to the editor in chief, we don't know exactly what they had to deal with, you know.
I mean, that's true. Yes. Well, the editor-in-chiefs, McNamara, Reiner, Matt Miller, always were really good at keeping them at arm's length. So like I had all of us, I think, had introductory meetings with like people who were in charge of Game Informer when those things changed. But it was like one meeting that was just like, what do you do here? This is what I do here. And then we never heard from those people again. Like they never dictated during my time at Game Informer anything about any of our content in any way whatsoever, ever, to the point where maybe it was a problem, like what you guys are talking about. Like there would have been opportunities to have Game Informer in the stores to be showcased more, but like there was just always there was a respect for church and state. Which was nice.
But totally. I mean, that definitely had a lot of benefits. Their hands-offness, and it also definitely had some downsides of like trying to grow in these ways and so many things we wanted to get started and couldn't like. It seemingly couldn't get the meeting to get the budget for about like redoing the podcast set and things like that of like kind of being stuck in a stagnant place from not being given the resources, at least in my era.
No, it drove me absolutely up a wall. And there's a lot of, it's a complicated thing, but like what would kill me is for years and years, GameStop, they partnered with, I think it was CBSI to make video content for their stores. And they spent like, $5 million a year or something on this contract. And meanwhile, Game Informer had, as far as I understood, a video budget of 0. Like I was there for 9 years.
Same camera.
It was never communicated to me once. This is a video budget. This is how much you can spend this year. It was, I would say, hey, can we get new cameras? And it would be, are you effing kidding me? Or, hey, can we get a new microphone? I'd be like, yeah, sure. That's like, that was the level. And that idea of once I learned of like, oh, they're spending millions on this contract to create video game themed video content. Like give us one other person and we can do this and give us a sliver of that. It was just so frustrating. And a lot of that, you just don't know who to blame. I don't know who these people were. It was just through a channel, filtered through a game of telephone. It's like, okay, whatever, I guess.
The ever-present question of, do they know what Game Informer does?
I think the answer is no. And so I think all of this malice that we're seeing now of them shutting down the site and everything, I think it's still a case of them just being like, what is this? I don't care. Look, I'm watching this meme stock rise and counting my money at the end. Like I
layoffs always kneecapping like essential parts of the operation.
Well, that was the 2019 layoffs, which maybe there are other people involved higher than Andy McNamara that we can point a finger to for who got the axe and why.
Oh,
that was equally frustrating.
I'm not blaming Andy at all.
Oh yeah, I know. I just want to make that clear. There was some point, you can tell a story if you want, of at some point a higher up at GameStop after 2019 that was your main contact, they left. And I heard a certain tale about them saying that they were rich as they were leaving out the door. Is there some story that might be told here? You're welcome to say no, but
no comment.
No comment. Okay. But hey, meme stocks are fun. Nate Voris wrote in and they say, when it was announced that Game Informer was being shut down, I saw plenty of comments sharing the sentiment that the writing was on the wall with the state of physical media and games journalism today. Maybe I was reading too much into things, but I always got the sense that GameStop management was hindering growth and development of the magazine more than helping. Is there a world where Game Informer could have been successful functioning independently without GameStop ownership or under a different owner? Or is the current games journalism landscape simply unsustainable? Love all the work the past and current crew put out. Hang on, let me get to compliments. And shout out to all the behind the scenes people at Game Informer whose names and faces I may not be familiar with, but I know were vital in keeping things running. Shout out to Curtis in production.
Yes.
There's so many people that were there for so long that you never really got on camera. But okay, a lot of questions here.
Yes to the first part, I think. I think there is an avenue of success for Game Informer.
That was independent?
I think so. Yeah. Or under different ownership.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was
I think we would have figured it out.
Yeah, we would make suggestions for simple things that would improve stuff that would go unnoticed, and I think if someone else would approve those kind of decisions or let us make them on our own, I think absolutely. Yeah.
There was a lot of money being left on the table.
Yeah.
In a variety of ways.
So, I mean, Jeff Ackervik during the last round of layoffs, who was, the creative director for years and years and
14 years.
Thank you. There we go. Yeah. He mentioned on MinnMax content that, there were discussions with other people about buying Game Informer out from GameStop, but apparently those all went nowhere. But that was
not privy to those, unfortunately.
Yeah, we would hear little things here and there, like especially when Reiner was editor in chief, of like, I heard this person might be interested, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting, and then it would fizzle out, and
Yeah. I mean, having a rough sense of the numbers of the standalone subscriptions, doing the math, I don't think it could have sustained salaries for the crew that was at Game Informer currently.
To say. Honestly, we don't know, honestly, is what it comes down to. I
think also there's so much passive revenue, ads,
sure,
merch. We had for the last several years, no merch. Just so many things so many avenues, that, I mean, also I think you could have charged a little bit more for Game Informer and put it on better paper. And maybe your margins would go up a bit.
Sure.
There's a lot of avenues.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben Shively, if you could relive any day at the Game Informer office, what would it consist of?
What would it consist? A day we would relive, or what our perfect day would be?
Yeah, I was thinking of
the average day.
Yeah, maybe go back. Like? Yeah,
my perfect day is probably when I was employed.
Right. That seems okay.
So last Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Well, I do have. There's a very. I remember the day that we totally revamped the website. That was a long time coming.
That was
huge.
Cool.
Yeah.
My memory of that, it was Margaret Andrews just flexing for 3 months, and then they got it done.
Yeah. And it was exciting, and I remember that day just being really cool, and everyone, there was just an energy in the office of we're a contemporary website.
Yeah. It was God. Are you talking about the most recent one?
No, I wasn't
Old
there
one.
for the most recent one. I'm talking. There was I guess I don't know the
2010 one?
year, maybe 2018 or something like that.
Yeah.
Where the website got overhauled significantly. And I just remember like polling. I mean, not literally me, but I remember the sort of the button being pushed of like the new website is live, and it was just really exciting and cool. It was like, and those kind of days in the office are always fun. Big cover reveals are always really exciting, you know, that kind of thing.
And which, I mean, I think it's, maybe we can go into it more next week, but very much the idea was we're building this new website that's slightly separate, basically separate from all GameStop ecosystem stuff. You know, so if we were ever sold off, it'd be a very clean transition. Like GameStop was not involved in that site design. The plan was, surprise, we made one. It's live. Please don't fire us all, GameStop. Yeah, that was the idea there. But like, I was going through some Game Informer archive stuff, and I just every once in a while you're just dumbfounded, like, what was going on? Where I found like this whole series of images in 2012 that I made of trying to pitch why we should have a video tab on the main site for GameInformer.com, because it was just like news, previews, about us. It was like, and it's just like, what a world where at least in 2012, maybe in 2013, I was having to make the case of like, is it unreasonable to say people might be interested in videos of video games on the internet?
Yeah, did you have to make like a PowerPoint presentation? Did it get that far?
I think it was just me photoshopping it together and pitching it probably to some higher ups, and then being like, yeah, that's nice, but I think it was literally like, are you kidding? Do you think we can just like add that to the site? I'm like, I don't know. How do things happen? Tell me, please. Like,
all you needed was a graphic with an arrow that just goes up, and that's your argument.
Right.
I remember the site getting remade because it was like, wow, I only had to deal with the crappy back end of this website for a few months, but I can feel the relief of these people who've been struggling with it for years.
Oh yeah, Marcus is familiar with it, aren't you?
Yeah, when I was an intern, that thing was hell on earth, and I was too polite to say it because I was like, I'm a lowly intern. I was like, I'm not trying to get kicked out on my first day.
I'll just make these custom 3 different photos for every article.
610 by 343.
Yep.
I remember well, 200.
200 by what's that?
Day to go back to, got to be an extra life just to get your money's worth.
That's true. For fun and silliness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody's there, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I've been going back to in my nostalgic revisiting of Game Informer content. I rewatched the Game Informer Extra Life 2019.
Oh,
Skimmed
wow.
through some choice segments. And yeah, the energy is just amazing. The laughing from off camera and stuff, and like everybody gathering around the pie room to watch whatever nightmare is taking place in there.
Yeah. Shout out to Jason A. Striker, who got the Extra Life thing rolling, I think in 2013, 2012 maybe. And then when he left, it was like, okay, Tim and I can produce it. And then Tim left, and it was like Ben Reeves and I were kind of producing it, and then it just kind of slowly evolved from there and stuff. But that got so fun to make that a huge effort. But that was a lot of work to put together. I was looking at like, you know, there's an office tour on MinnMax's YouTube channel, and then if you're a $5 supporter on Patreon, you can unlock the 2-hour version of that office tour, which is like uncut, but then also includes a ton of just phone footage from us messing around in the office and stuff, which is very fun. And one of them, like towards the end of that, we also have like walking through. It's like, Leo, I think you were filming me, and I was like showing off all the auction items for Extra Life, and I was just blown away by some of the stuff in there. Like, holy crap! Like, we auctioned off a Pikmin 2 standee that was signed by Miyamoto and Tezuka, like all the higher ups at Nintendo, and we had 2 of them. This was the second one that we auctioned off, but we auctioned off so much completely one of a kind content, and like during that video where we're showing it off, it would just be like a fleeting thing, like, okay, here's a giant God of War poster signed by the entire Santa Monica team. Okay, but over here, and it's like, what? Where did this come from? Like, oh, here's an original drawing of Metal Sonic from the original artist that we're auctioning off for Extra Life. Like, we raised a lot of money. You know, I'm happy in retrospect, you know, that we pushed as hard as we did towards the end there for things to auction off, because definitely by like 2017, I was in the camp of like, everything must go. Like, why are we auctioning off all of this old crap in the Game Informer office? And I was like, well, we got to hang on to the old posters. Like, why? Like, we're going to burn down soon. And so I'm glad, like, I at least made a case for why we should auction a lot of stuff. And a lot of stuff did get out the door for charity, which I feel good about. Hopefully the rest can find a good home too. But like, I remember, I don't know what year it was, Leo. It was probably maybe your first year at Extra Life. I think you were there. But like, you know, it was working so hard for those Extra Life streams, and they were like 25 hours long. And also it was like, you know, just a sprint of a week leading up to them, and we'd be in the office super late setting all that stuff up. Like Wade Wojcik was there late so many years, you know, and I remember it just killed me. It was like at the end of the 25-hour stream, your brain is beyond fried. And Ben Reeves just gave me like a really sweet, like, you worked really hard, did a really good job. And I'm gonna cry now, but like I just remember like exploding in tears, and it's like, oh my God, like I don't know how much I needed to hear that after an Extra Life stream, but it just destroyed me. It was like that moment of, well, I'm crying in front of my coworkers, but I think it's okay. This seems like the right experience to cry to.
Yeah. Also, shout out to him because he texted me recently and gave me some kind words, and I appreciated that.
Oh, that's nice. Was it knife eat, or were there more words beyond that?
He pitched me some weird idea. Called
yeah. Divorce.
That's why Marcus was crying, was because of the knives.
Divorce Cougar writes in the backstage pass tier, and they say, I have that signed Nicolas Cage photo from The Office hanging in my apartment. Hell yeah, that was in the Game Informer kitchen. Crowboy says, I loved when Leo won the auction for one of Andy's Funkoland t-shirts. Yeah, we auctioned off all of Andy's old Funkoland and video game t-shirts that he was just gonna like throw away, and we ended up raising thousands for charity. It was like, you know, Naughty Dog shirts from like 1994, just awesome weird old stuff. There was a promotional t-shirt for Link's Awakening. They had a train tour across the United States to promote Link's Awakening. You think it'd be Spirit Tracks, but it was Link's Awakening. And like Andy had a shirt and a bag for that, and so we auctioned that off. I think we auctioned off, I'm pretty sure, Andy's notebook from like Space World, where he was taking notes on seeing, as he called it, Zelda 64 for the first time before it had a name. And he was like scribbling down notes trying to explain what Z targeting was. I was like, oh my God. Andy was just going to throw that away. It's like, are you kidding? This is incredible gaming history. It's so wild.
That was in the 2019 one that I watched. And it's funny watching him feel extremely uncomfortable selling his old shirt. Not discomfort zone at all. A day I wouldn't necessarily go back to, but like after the 2019 layoffs, there was a big party at Andy's house with everybody. And that is like a really fond memory. That was a really special kind of party of like, oh, we really just, I don't know, we have to celebrate something here. Like, it's not just an office holiday party or something. It's just like, we've got a lot to emotionally pour over together.
Yep.
Special night.
Keep the comments rolling, by the way, for stuff you want in the auctions, because I love seeing this. Like Bob Buell in the Backstage Pass chat, he says, I have a map of facility from GoldenEye signed by David Doak and an artist on my wall. Like, you know, some of the original designers for GoldenEye, like that. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah, an original map of facility signed by the GoldenEye team. That's as cool as you can get. Jesus Christ. Let's see. Chandler, how pessimistic or optimistic are you feeling about games journalism as a career right now? Are any of you calling it quits at this point?
Ooh,
I don't know yet. Right?
I've had
really.
I've had a few young writers reach out to me over the last like year, or pretty much throughout my time at Game Informer, which is always incredibly flattering. Like asking for advice. And I know the last couple I've talked to, I made it a point to be very honest about just the state of the industry and stuff, and just saying, you know, it's not. I feel like my generation, which maybe like Leo and Alex would be part of that, like coming up around the same time in like the mid 2010s. Like it felt like the last real, like when the getting was good, I guess, you know, with exceptions like Charles, of course. And it's like you want to be in terms of like doing what we did, of like making a full-time living in an office and, you know, doing all the things that we got to do. It's never been more difficult than it is now. And then obviously, you know, we're one less one of those. It's like, who's left really that you could say that you can make a livable wage doing this?
Yeah.
It's like IGN, GameSpot. And that's being a full-time writer and not one of their like army of freelancers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I will never tell someone like, no, they can't do it. Just, you know, the reality is that it's very hard. On top of the fact that to do this job now, to game journalism, to me, you need to be more than just a writer. You kind of got to be a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And when I was coming up, I made it a point to teach myself everything, like podcasting, audio editing, being comfortable on camera, streaming, like everything. Just because, and I think that rings even more true now because of how much more competitive it is. Like obviously be a great writer first, but have at least one or two things like under your belt that you can bring to the table. But if you were to ask me today, would you say like, hey, I want to be what you were, and I'm deciding to do that now. It's, I think that's that I don't know if you can do it the same way.
Yeah, it's like you can. There's other ways in, of course. Now, like doing your own thing can get you a lot more notice than it used to. But that's like a very different skill set sometimes. Like different types of people succeed in those different ways.
Yeah, I mean, Eric in the Backstage Pass chat said like Elise Favis made it all the way to the Washington Post, and she was still laid off. Like, it's just, there's no place safe. And as sad as we are about Game Informer going down, like I feel like we're counting down the months until other big outlets go down. Like you look around the industry and say, what's sustainable? And I don't feel good about anything. A couple Patreons.
IGN just bought up a bunch of or maybe we're IGN's parent company, whoever it was, like bought up a bunch of them, which is like a weird, like, oof, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You either get laid off or live long enough to be acquired by IGN.
Oh, God willing. Oh, God willing.
I think it's hard too, because it sucks in the games industry right now, and it also sucks in the media industry right now.
Yeah.
Sort of being the Venn diagram of those. Like, it got to the point where I was kind of annoyed how often we had to write this game studio closed down news story. Like, I was bored of it. I would be like, I don't need to think right now. I'll just write up that this game studio got shut down, because I'm so like, there's a point where we were copy and pasting blocks of text to be like, and these are all the ones that got laid off this year. Like,
we had a template.
Yeah. Like, we should had news, previews, videos, game studio shut down. That should have been the top tabs of the website.
You were pitching that. It was weird. Yeah.
But just as a thing of, it makes you very uneasy as a person in the writing those up, because it's like, this happens all the time. It's happening at game studios and it's happening at media outlets. And so it feels weird to be not only participating, but to be paying very close attention to all the closures, and then to be ejected and be like, well, time to go back in. I didn't know if I was going to go back into games media after Fanbyte closed, just because I didn't think I would find a spot. And there happened to be a Game Informer job that I was lucky enough to get that was like, I don't know. I think because it was part-time, it was probably a different pool of people applying. But now if there's like a full-time games writer job, there's so many people that have been laid off that are looking for full-time gigs that it's like, you're not competing with other entry-level people. You're competing with, I don't know, not that I think me and Brian would go for the same jobs, but like me versus Brian Shea.
Take him down.
Like, he's got all the years of Game Informer, and I have 2 years of Game Informer, and it's like, I'm not even like saying it's a fair fight, Take Brian. So I don't know. I think I'll go where there's space for me, but I don't know if games media has space for me at the moment.
Is anyone ready to throw in the towel and go to PR?
I mean,
yeah,
that's such a weird way. I've never had any aspirations or desire to work in PR. I've just always viewed it as like an avenue. And for me, I'm very much big on like, what do I want to do? That's what got me here. I don't know yet. The reason I'm kind of spending this month finishing up what I had at Game Informer is sort of like almost knee jerky, because like this has been my life in some form or another since I wrote my first like review on a forum in 2011. Like, I've just been writing about games since then. So the idea of leaving it entirely is like very weird to me. But I don't know. I'm still. It's too early for me to say. It's like, I don't necessarily want to.
Yeah.
It's not like, I can't wait to get out of here. It's more of like, would that objectively be the smarter move? And it's more like seeing what else is out there and just seeing if that tickles my fancy of like, that sounds fun. And that's new. I could try something new there. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So I don't know. TBA.
Kyle, where are you at?
I don't know, man. I have spent times on
both sides of the fence at this point, more so journalism than the other. I want to stay in the industry. I love video games. I think I have sort of expertise in the industry that I can share. But in terms of like specifics, I'm just kind of seeing what's out there and seeing what interests me and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's not like, well, I'm done, I'm going this direction, right? I'm still very much like, what's available? Let me see.
Is there, I mean, consulting? It seems like everyone who's moved into the world of consulting, I know they're behind kind of a brick wall where they can't say much, but a lot of people are like, it's really easy and the pay's good. Seems to be the
I fully
sentiment.
plan on consulting when the opportunities come along for sure. Yeah.
Alex Van Aken,
Yo,
where are you at?
I'm gonna try to keep doing it.
Okay.
There are no open roles currently that I've seen that that I can reasonably get or secure. So I'm doing my own thing for the time being. Hoping to combine, do the Patreon thing, start my own channel on top of hopefully doing some consulting and that kind of thing. Collaborating with other creatives, and I don't know. I'm really open. I'm also like not writing off just getting a new job, but for the next few months at least, like the next hopefully 6 months, like I'm really going to give it a shot to try to break off and do my own thing. So
okay. So are you announcing a Patreon? Or are you saying stay tuned? What's your take?
I'll announce it now, I guess. It's called Viewport. Inside looks at game development. I'm actually going to be announcing it on Friday. So viewers that are watching this live, try to keep it under wraps if you don't mind. But yeah, on Friday of this week, I'm going to be announcing it. It's called Viewport. It's actually been a secret side project I've been working on for like 4 months. I've already filmed one documentary for it. It's going to be video game documentaries. I should have said that. I love doing that work at Game Informer. I love doing that work so much at Game Informer that one of those documentaries, the humanity documentary, Blake and I paid our own money to make that thing happen and put it up on the Game Informer YouTube channel.
What does that mean? Flying to Japan on your own dime? What does that mean?
We had flights covered for a cover story trip, but then I think we purchased like 3 nights of hotels and food and everything because we just really wanted to tell that story. So it's something needed to say I'm really passionate about doing. I will say the first documentary that I'm going to launch with, I think, is Another Crab's Treasure. I'm going to be flying there in a week and document the making of that game.
Sweet.
With that crew. There's the one that I've already filmed is a smaller game, so I'm probably going to save that one until after the Aggro Crab doc is up. But yeah, this wasn't going to launch until 2025. And now all of a sudden, within 3 days, I have, I've got the Patreon set up. I've got the YouTube channel set up. And I'm just trying to like finish writing everything for like an announcement. And I think tomorrow I'm going to film the announcement video and hastily edit it together.
Get the Patreon up. Absolutely.
It's up right now. Yeah. Okay. Patreon.com/viewport video.
There we go. Awesome.
And Viewport Video is the tag on Twitter, on YouTube, all that. So
sweet.
It'll be interesting. So it might flop, but I don't really have. I mean, if it becomes a full-time thing, that'd be amazing. I'd love to do it full-time.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got a lot of inspiration from like NoClip and Archipel, and people make games in terms of like doc work. So I think there's an avenue there to do that. It's just kind of how big of a splash can I make. I was originally planning for this to be a part-time special project,
Yeah.
So it's all kind of happening fast, still kind of figuring it out, but I don't know.
Congrats, man.
No,
it's going to be great.
You do
really
know.
Good.
You do know. And the answer is patreon.com/viewport
video.
Yeah. Awesome. Link in the description.
I made the logo today and it looks awesome.
Hell yeah. Congrats.
All right.
Deuterato writes in, final emotional question. What's your go-to appetizer when eating with a group?
Oh,
Brussels sprouts.
Honestly, it's obnoxious how much Charles loves Brussels sprouts. Every time we go out to eat, he's like, Brussels sprouts. I'm like, we haven't even got water yet, Charles. Sit down, please.
I grab the waiter by the collar of their shirt and say, Brussels sprouts.
Sprout in my mouth. Sprout and about. It's obnoxious, this dude.
Not everybody likes them, but that makes it a
Brussels.
good conversation piece.
I think the people that don't like them are just used to like jokes from the honeymooners about how Brussels sprouts suck. Like, I cannot imagine an adult human being who could taste Brussels sprouts as an appetizer and say no go. I think that person should be.
Got a little bit of sourness to them.
Kyle, are you that person?
Nobody likes Brussels sprouts as they are. You like it when you add a bunch of like unhealthy stuff,
bacon,
like bacon and syrup and stuff. It's like you like the toppings on Brussels sprouts.
I'm like, just fry them. That's the thing. They're supposed to be fried. People don't like boiled steamed potato or Brussels sprouts. I was thinking in my head, I was like, yeah, like if I get like a steamed potato, that'd be gross. Or like, I don't know. I think that was like in my head, the default Brussels sprout.
What was the question again?
What is the
appetizer?
go-to?
And I just screamed out Brussels
okay.
sprouts.
The answer is Brussels sprouts.
You went to that. Okay.
The only thing that's tough,
that's not even a common appetizer. Like, you got to really look for a place that says, like, Outback has them sometimes.
Yeah, but the only thing that's the downside here is like you need forks for them. You know, like that's appetizer. It seems like ideally you just pick it up and grab it. I think that's a factor, but it's still Brussels sprouts.
Oh, I do love a bloomin' onion. I like calamari a lot. That's my go-to.
Calamari.
But it's also one of those issues. Issues not the right word. It's one of those situations where my wife does not like eating squid because squid are very smart, and that she gets bummed out to eat squid. So it's like I don't really get to eat. I don't really get to eat it a lot. So it's like when I have the opportunity, I get really excited for it because I love a good calamari.
Just eat a human brain at that point. You frickin'
Yeah, I feel like mozzarella sticks are always a hit.
Yeah,
like nobody turns away mozzarella.
But
sticks,
I feel like you get like 4, and they're so good, it's gonna turn into civil war at that table. You're never going to get enough to satisfy.
More, right? Like, you're like, hey, just so you know, I'm a fatty, so you're going to need like 3 of these things, depending on what the quantity of them. But like, the person that suggests them is like instantly a hero, right? You're like, mozzarella sticks.
Man, I got
like the way you think.
I went to a wedding a couple months ago, and they had an infinite supply of mozzarella sticks. I was like, why didn't I think about this? It's going to make everybody happy. It's so good. It's the perfect wedding food. Load up on mozzarella sticks.
Is it like in a big pile, or did they like stack them like Lincoln Logs?
People
like,
kept bringing them out. It wasn't fancy.
Oh, yeah, I was like, how do you present an unlimited amount of mozzarella sticks?
It was like a Scrooge McDuck vault of mozzarella sticks, if I had to describe it as something. Yeah.
I had a friend who was like giving me wedding advice before I was getting married. And he was like, all right, here, I got some advice for you. And I was like, all right, let's hear it. Let's hear some good like wedding advice, you know? And he was like, make sure they put aside some appetizers for you because they're going to get eaten. And I was like, this is what this is. I thought I was getting some like lifelong advice here. But he's like, nah, man, those appetizers are going to get eaten. So you got to make sure they put some aside for you. And
Smart.
Like, all right.
And did you do it?
What do you guys consider like free chips and salsa? Is that like the appetizer before the appetizer? Because it's like you get those just for showing up, and the same with like free bread, but then you also have the option of adding an actual appetizer.
That feels like overkill. It depends if you're on GameStop's dime or not, whether or not you load up on the extra appetizer on top of a bread or chips and salsa situation.
Wow, you'd go appetizer every time, or the way just as the way I was raised.
Oh,
in this household.
Yeah. Man. And there's no term for it. It's just bread and it's chips and salsa. I don't know. There should be a term for it, but it's its own thing.
It's like the warm up to the appetizer.
Appetizer,
something like that. Games bottom. I was listening to this interview with Phil Rosenthal, like the showrunner for Everybody Loves Raymond, and Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix, which is a real guilty pleasure show. I love that frickin' show. Anyways, but he was on this podcast and he was talking about how this is like after Everybody Loves Raymond and after Seinfeld were off the air. He went out to dinner with Jerry Seinfeld and some folks, and they're looking at the menus, and Phil Rosenthal's like, should we get like an appetizer for the table? And he swears to God this is true. He says that Seinfeld looked around and he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, we just got like an appetizer to share? Like we can get the mozzarella sticks to share at the table? And Seinfeld's like, share? Yeah, like it blew Jerry Seinfeld's mind, the idea of getting appetizers to share collectively for the table. He insists that he had never done it before. And he said that they were all like eating the appetizer. And Seinfeld's like, I like this. Sharing an appetizer. This is great. You share the appetizer. Like it was a weird concept to him.
See, that's when you know you've been rich for too long.
Yes.
Yeah. The idea that, no, I can have my own individual appetizer and not share. Like I can afford that.
It's just confusing.
Well, he's also he's kind of a germaphobe kind of guy, right? Maybe that was a
I don't know.
Something. I don't know.
I guess he likes clean. The toilet brush.
Yeah,
He threw away the belt because it touched the bathroom wall. We all remember that bit, right, Leo? That was your favorite episode.
Oh, yeah.
Leo, I feel like I've never connected to you as much as you in that moment right there. the getting thrown you watch that too. Like, for sure, man.
All right. What do y'all like for a question of the week?
Oh my
Dude, I'm just thinking about my favorite Seinfeld moments now.
All right, buddy.
gosh.
We got.
Can you give a recap a little bit there because they did kind of blend?
Sorry, you got to remember. It seemed to be a theme of Game Informer. The thing that was something you wanted to highlight that was unseen from Game Informer, the coolest experience Game Informer gave you, favorite replays, workplace culture at Game Informer, what makes it unique. Are you calling it quits for the game industry? Something about appetizers. Oh, Deuterado also says, for my money, loaded cheese fries are unbeatable. It does sound good. There's no doubt that sounds great.
There's the thing is that those are good, but then most of the meals come with fries, so then it becomes like too much fries.
Yeah, I hear you.
I feel like if you get cheese fries, then I can't get regular fries because I've had my fry quota. You know.
I actually liked hearing like the unseen things, which might be selfish of me just to hear like headlines and jokes and things that I just never got to, I wasn't in any of those Game and Farcer meetings, so I loved hearing those.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Yeah. Can we publish those on MinnMax?
Yeah. Toss our way. Yeah, great.
Can we finally fulfill the prophecy?
We did.
All right. That sounds good.
I like the workplace culture question.
Okay.
I thought, it made us all emotional.
That's true. That's true. Charles and Alex, you get the final vote here.
I'm with Marcus.
Leo?
I agree with Marcus.
Oh no, I was with Kyle.
All right, that does it. I think let's go ahead and give it to the workplace culture. Quilgrim, you just won We Are OFK thanks to iMateBit. So thanks for shipping that out and help support iMateBit to keep them around. Now it's time for a segment that, of course, we like to call Get a Load of This. We got to replace that with Totally Angelica. That feels like a much better intro. Just roll that every single week. I feel like it'd really do well.
Tell the world the news. It's relevant.
It is true. Wow, that's a great point. Get a load of this. I'll go first because this is the worst one, I promise. But I'm just fascinated by a lot of things in culture. But it popped up in my YouTube algorithm feed. Like, hey, do you want to watch NSYNC's Bye 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 music video? I was like, oh, that's odd. And then I noticed in parentheses, so this video was uploaded 14 years ago on NSYNC's official YouTube channel, but now it is called NSYNC Bye 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 parentheses official video from Deadpool and Wolverine. Just like went back and added that because it's in like a big intro sequence in that movie. So I think that's so funny when they just go back and try and retrofit it. Like, this is the official Deadpool video, everybody. It was uploaded 14 years ago before the first Deadpool came out. But I remember I did that for the Todd Howard tour of Bethesda with Skyrim, which is in like the top 15 most viewed Game Informer. But I think it was when Fallout 4 was coming out. There was so much damn hype about that game that I renamed the headline like Skyrim and Fallout 4 Studio. And we got so many comments. They're like, what the hell? And they were all just so confused why those. And it's like, all right, you know what? They have changing old YouTube headlines. It's just confusing. But then again, if everyone's searching, what is that music video from Deadpool and Wolverine? I guess it makes sense. But all right, somebody top that one, please.
I have another bad one if you want.
Okay.
Hey, get a load of this. There's this story that's making national headlines about this event at an elementary school where teachers wore sombreros and evaded Border Patrol in a school game to represent Mexico.
All right.
It's absolutely terrible. And the twist is that it was my elementary school that I went to in Florence, South Carolina.
Awesome.
All of the principals were fired. It's terrible. And I was like, hey, that's my alma mater.
Wow.
Rah, rah, rah.
That was a choice.
Get a load of this. So there is a YouTube channel called Brat TV. This was I learned of this recently from a Drew Gooden YouTube video. Brat TV, it is a YouTube channel. They do like sitcom-esque videos. They're not like full episode length. So it's like 10 minutes or shorter, and it's like a web series, I guess. And sometimes it stars like YouTube and TikTok stars as like acting as characters in this thing. But it's like low budget, kind of just low quality, weird sitcom stuff. Their big hit show is called Chicken Girls. The other important detail with this is they, in recent years, have had very blatant product placement where like someone will be really mad and they'll be like, hey man, I think you need a Snickers, and like literally hand them a Snickers and they'll eat it and be like, okay, thanks. The plot is resolved. I've eaten a Snickers, and they'll continue. All of this is to preface that there is apparently 1 year ago a spin-off of Chicken Girls called Chicken Girls: Forever Team. And the plot of this Chicken Girls spin-off is one of the main characters from the show goes to a new school now and makes friends by joining a competitive Lego Mario course building team.
Love it.
And the whole show is just based around them arranging Lego Mario courses to like get the most coins. And it is like so weird. I have a trailer I will send Ben. But it's like, it feels like a really, really long ad for this Mario Lego in a way that is clearly like not intended to be used. And I just thought it was so bizarre.
Links below for all this funky stuff.
Get a load of this.
Yeah.
I am related by marriage to a famous NASCAR driver who I think is a villain amongst NASCAR drivers. Bobby Labonte.
Labonte
is
that
Bobby
son of
Labonte.
Bobby LeBobby.
And I didn't know who he was until my great grandfather died, and I went to the funeral, and everyone was acting weird because there was this guy walking in the room. I'd never met him, and they were like whispering, "Shut up, that's it, Bobby Labonte."
Bobby Labonte.
Like, and so I literally at my great grandfather's funeral have the Wikipedia page up for Bobby Labonte, full brightness, as Bobby Labonte walks by me, and I've just got a picture of his face like on my giant phone screen. I was mortified. Never talked to the guy.
Should have been like, "Diss you."
Diss you. This is not an endorsement for that person. I've never talked to them. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe somebody's really problematic. I don't know. But I just know that I'm related to him by marriage, and I embarrassingly had his entire face on my phone screen at my great grandfather's funeral.
You needed to go, oh, whoa, I was just reading about you.
He married into, to be clear, he married into my family.
Yeah.
So he's the interloper. Like you can, you can push him around.
Was he walking into the funeral only taking a left? Right, guys?
Weirdly, he had on massive sunglasses and a beer in his hands, a giant NASCAR flag.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Ben, I really liked that joke.
I didn't like it at all.
It killed. Yep. All right, that's fair.
Game's bottom.
Yeah, we're at the end of the show here, folks. Who hasn't gone? Volleyed out. Where are we at here?
Get a load of this. As we all know, Robert Downey Jr. is playing Dr. Doom in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is exciting, but also has divided a lot of fans, and everyone has been speculating and forming theories about how that's going to work. Just the story, like, is he going to be Tony Stark, and what's going on?
I thought it was going to be Labonte, personally, but it wasn't worth interrupting you for. Go on.
I've been, as a Marvel fan, I've been reading some theories, and a lot of them have been nonsense. But one that did stand out, that was the most interesting one, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I could not find where I found it, so I can't read it verbatim. But it was like a paragraph. But whoever wrote this came up with the idea that this is a Doctor Doom in an alternate universe who is Victor Von Doom, but just looks like Robert Downey Jr. because multiverse shenanigans.
Right.
And that his origin story is similar to the comics, that his parent or his mother was a witch who taught him magic. And also he was a prodigious science guy, and his mother was burned and killed for being a witch. So that made him hate people. And that he became, as he got older, like an he got employed at Stark Industries with his universe's Tony Stark, who was going to be played by a different actor, and then proposed like Tom Cruise ? Because the story is that in the 90s he was kind of interested in making and starring as Iron Man.
That's good.
But that he would have a falling out with that universe's Tony Stark, kill him, take his tech, rework it to his own while also infusing it with all the magic that he learned from his mom, but then have his accident where his face gets damaged and he loses an eye. And then so he does his comic book thing where he travels to Tibet, meets some monks, and then there they mistake him for this one-eyed messiah that they think, oh, it's him. Like, you're here to do messiah things, and he buys into it because and that kind of creates his megalomania complex. And so he completes his magical training there. Along the way, like, creates his Doom bots and basically completely conquers his universe, because I guess this universe either doesn't have superheroes or not enough, but he pretty much rules over that. And then over time, he discovers the multiverse and then decides, like, hey, I think I can rule over other timelines, because why not? I own everything here. And then that's how he's going to be brought into the prime MCU.
It's gospel.
And basically the best thing about that is that the implication that he is not like Tony Stark brought back to life as Doctor Doom, which is I really hope that's not what they're doing.
I cannot imagine they're going to do that. Yeah, I was watching this video of Stan Lee talking about Doctor Doom, because I don't know the first thing about Doctor Doom, to be honest, which I'm embarrassed about. But like,
you should be.
I should be, yeah. But there's a video with Stan Lee where he's talking about like why Doctor Doom was cool, and he's like, I think it's cool to have villains in Marvel where Doctor Doom could go up to like a cop in the street and be like, I'm going to conquer the world. And the cops can't arrest him for it. Like, anybody can say that. Like, anybody can walk up to anybody and be like, I'm going to rule the entire planet. It's like, okay. And that's all Doctor Doom does. Like, there's no crimes he really commits. I assume eventually he kills people.
I mean, he's fascinating because he's he owns his own country too.
Right.
He's a political leader and everything. But like, also, I want to say for my own note, if they don't play an MF Doom song at any point in that movie,
right,
that is the biggest missed opportunity. Like, if you don't have Operation Doomsday playing at some point, then what are we doing? Come on.
Ariel's listening to this, pumping his fists.
Oh, he's so excited. Leo, you got one?
Get a load of this. So there's this guy on Seinfeld who he hates soup or something.
Right.
It's really good stuff.
Okay, yeah, come and get Seinfeld. That'll earn you some friends.
I've heard.
I get
that's a different show, actually.
I get a load of this. I've talked about retro achievements in the past, but I wanted to just share a straight up link to get started with them because they're so fun. I played through Sly Cooper 1 on emulator this past week, getting retro achievements along the way, which is just like ticks for completing levels, but also for completing levels without getting hurt. Or it's like that stupid chicken catching mini game that nobody in the MinnMax Discord warned me about. I spent like 2 hours on it because you get to it and it's like leaderboard attempt started. And it's how fast can you do this stupid chicken catching mini game. And I beat it once and I was like in last place. So I was like, I have to beat it again. And it took me 2 hours.
Oh God.
But I was just trying to climb up those leaderboards. And it's so fun how well integrated that is. It just like is, I wish I didn't need that little extra incentive to go back and play something I know is going to be like enriching and fun, but I do. And Retro Achievements provides that. So it's a guide to just get started.
So you're like manually checking like I did it, or is it like integrated?
It automatically pops up with the achievement sound from Xbox 360. They just use that one because it's my favorite.
So you're playing like a PC version of Sly Cooper?
Yeah, on a PlayStation 2 emulator, PCSX 2.
That's cool.
That's cool.
That's cool, man.
Really fun. And it's like you got friends on it and stuff. You can compare scores and they do like challenges too. My friend Joe, Kobesoft Joe, will like hit me up when they have, there's a Tony Hawk challenge of like, get this achievement of getting to the 4th level in Thug 2 or whatever. Can you parsec in and play Tony Hawk for me? So that's really fun.
That's awesome. If you're interested in some Sly Cooper news, not about a new one necessarily, but you can stay tuned. We have an interview with the leads of Airship Syndicate. Perhaps they worked on a Sly Cooper game back in the day, and we talk about that and a bunch of other stuff. So it's a fun conversation there coming up on Monday at MinnMax's YouTube channel. So thanks for supporting there. Otherwise, hey, get a load of this from the MinnMax Discord. Pancake shared in there that apparently Blake Hester's book about the oral history of Guitar Hero Rock Band and the music game boom was funded.
Hell yeah! Blake.
Down to the wire. That is awesome that it got through.
I bought 2.
Did you?
I bought one.
I got
One
the
for my dad.
$100 one. Like I think it's the signed version of that. I'm so excited for it.
Nice.
But you can still get that if you want to check out the oral history of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, a big book about Harmonix's history, which I'm very excited about. There we go. Something Rotten t-shirt for Alex and Aken. All right, that is it for this humongo episode of the MinnMax Show. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Marcus.
Thanks
for having us. Thanks for the platform, Ben.
And shout out to the community for all the archival stuff.
Yes.
That is tremendous.
Amazing.
Yes, we're not going into extreme specifics, but jump in that Discord. There's a lot of amazing stuff happening to try and preserve Game Informer's history there. And shout out to everybody in the mods. And Kelsey Lewin is kind of spearheading that up. And so, shout out to everybody there for a job well done for sure. Let's see. We have, speaking of Kelsey Lewin, she just released a book on the history of Animal Crossing. You can get through Boss Fight Books. And this week's episode of New Show Plus, the community rules, and they voted for a show just called Reading. And so this week's episode was Kelsey Lewin reading from her Animal Crossing book and doing like an author Q&A. And it was a really fun episode. I promise you'll learn stuff about Animal Crossing there that you didn't know before. And you can check out her book as well. Or if you want I should say, and don't get me started on Star Wars, Leo, but if you want to win a signed copy of Kelsey Lewin's Boss Fight books all about the history of Animal Crossing, you can follow MinnMax on Instagram. MinnMax Show on Instagram. We have a post that's a picture of Kelsey holding the book. If you submit a comment there after following MinnMax Show on Instagram, you're in the running to win a copy for the book. She's shipping out 5 signed copies of her Animal Crossing book, so give us a follow on Instagram if you want to get in on that good stuff. Otherwise, last week's New Show Plus, we didn't plug it, I don't think, last week, but it's so damn good. It is Haley McLean and her sister playing their childhood twist on Halo 3 that's all about the magic of Orby, and just seeing those sisters like rekindle their youth and role play the stupid game they played when they were like 10. It is so sweet. So you can check that out on MinnMax's YouTube channel. It's one of my favorites in a long while here.
And good in-person content too. They're in the same room, which took me a minute to realize.
Yeah, for sure. It's funky. But just a reminder too, we have a community meetup obviously happening in North Carolina. Asheville, North Carolina. We're going to be October 5th on that Saturday. We're going to be at a brewery. There's more details on Patreon. But we also have another one because we want to meet you. That's coming up damn soon. Next weekend in Chicago, Saturday, August 17th, 5 p.m. at the Game Room in downtown Chicago. We're going to be going there for a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth concert, and so we're going to meet up with folks at the Game Room. If you're in the Chicago area, come on down. Saturday, August 17th, 5 p.m. Central. You don't need to be a Patreon supporter to swing by, say hi, shake some hands. We'd love to meet you. All right, that is it. Contact info for all these folks in the description for the podcast. Any final words, any final plugs? Anybody want to toss out there?
Give us jobs.
Give you jobs.
I'll take one of those.
Bold take. Writing, social media stuff, Alex, video production. Those are the arenas we're working in, right?
Yeah. I'm down to make some game trailers.
Hell yeah.
I always wanted to do that.
Yeah, you nailed the Plants vs. Zombies 2 one, so just imagine what you can do out
exactly,
there again.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
That's so many views.
It's been fun. If you want to submit questions for another panel of Game Informer editors coming up next week, you can be a Patreon supporter at any tier. Even that $2 tier, you can jump in and submit a question, and good chance it'll be read on the big roundtable discussion next week with a ton more Game Informer folks from throughout the decade. So thanks everybody for supporting MinnMax on Patreon, making this entire operation sustainable. That's our North Star. We want to stay smaller, smarter, more sustainable. And so we can't thank you enough for keeping this operation rolling over there on Patreon. So that is it. Thank you so much, everybody. All right, Charles Hart, take us out. Okay, there we go.
Is this a real sprite? Why is this Fanta green? Don't understand. I thought I ordered a Snapple tea. Tell us about the things that you're going to eat. I wanna pie.
Yeah.
An easy lunch on the go with some fried potatoes at the drive-through window. I'll say what I'm going to eat. Stack it up on top of bread. I'ma shove it in my head. I want a sesame bun, but if it's plain, I won't throw it away. I want food, didn't need it to be fried. I might come back again this time tomorrow. Carry out, makes my days a little radder.
That belongs in a museum. Unbelievable. Kyle, what are you doing?
He's trying to play drums.
My ideal song.
I was trying to play drums. I was going to turn the camera towards my drums.
Thin sliced onions every time. Also, to be naughty, some provolone. Gotta eat it all, it can't be safe for you. I want food at the drive-thru window. I just wanna dine. A sandwich dish is maybe my number one. Try the chicken turkey pesto but with ham. Yummy food, would you like to add mango? That does sound inviting. Fruit and meat's exciting. Meat and potato. Potato. And potato. Potato. And potato, yes or no? Was this to go? Oh boy, I'm strong. God damn, what's up, oh boy? Give them something to eat. Also to drink, would I just get a tea? Is that for here or to go? Also potato.
He spilled a
I think he spilled a Coke.
Spilled a
I think he spilled a Coke.
Spilled a
I think he spilled a Coke. I think he spilled a Coke. I think he spilled a Coke. He spilled a Coke. Coke. I got a tea. I didn't even have a Coke.
I'm sorry, but go ahead and take some fries for free.
For free.
We're not gonna pay for
Did you think you could swap out my tea for a Sprite? When I knew it was a different drink the whole time. Oh, baby, just forget the tea, baby. Start bringing me out. I gotta get right out of here.
Incredible.
Also fried potato.
Dude.
And Charles
Incredible.
Hart.
It is a freaking crime that was relegated to the Game Informer Slack exclusively.
Oh my
for so
God.
long.
Oh
It's a
my
masterpiece.
God.
It's a masterpiece.
And
Isn't that so much funnier though? Like, isn't it so much funnier to put that much
I mean,
work
he's
into
like
a
he's
thing
dropping this on like a
for-
random Tuesday.
Yeah, for 12 people.
And this
A
man
bit
is
I started doing for no reason forever. Yeah.
he's unemployed right now, world. Fix it.
You're unemployed
Weird Al
right
need
on
a
a
ghostwriter?
Tuesday.
I don't know.
Really? Commercial
Ah,
jingle or
Drake
something?
hit me. Oh, never mind. Just kidding.
Till next time, be good, have fun, let's go.